Yes, y'all, it's going down right now. Episode 77 of the 22 Shots of Moods and Horror podcast is coming at you live. I am your host, Moodz616, also known as Moodz. And of course, I've always got my half-blooded fucking asshole Mexican soulmate with me, Double Shot J, also known as JP. And yes, that was a shout out to you, Jeremy. What's going on, homie?
Yo, dog, we are back up in this bitch once again. We are weekly. We are not slowing down for nothing. We're just going to keep rolling, and we're doing big things over here at the 22 Shots. We got a director's spotlight on Frank Hennenlotter tonight, also known as the Basket Case Trilogy tonight. But next week, we also will have another director's spotlight on Frank Hennenlotter, which we will be covering his other three main films. I know he did, didn't he just do the sexploitation documentary as well?
He did, actually, and he also directed, I mean, that's what he's done in the last few years, and he also directed the Herschel Gordon Lewis documentary also recently. So that's pretty cool. He's kind of taken that documentary route. But yes, part two will consist of Brain Damage, Frankenhooker, and Bad Biology,
which are all brand new watches for me. Actually, this was mostly new watches this episode too, because I'd only seen the original Basket Case, but I picked up Basket Case 2. I already own 3 for this show. So getting my Frank Hennenlotter on. Looking forward to his other films, his 3. I've definitely at least heard good things about Frankenhooker. So yeah, man, that's pretty cool. Frank Hennenlotter, we kind of do these director spotlights. Obviously, we did like Wes Craven, and we did the Italian month where it was like Argento and Bava and Fulci and Sauvé, and those are sort of bigger name directors. Suave, whatever. And of course, we started it off with the Ryan Nicholson spotlight back in the day. And we figured, like, okay, well, there's obviously, like, Romero, and which probably will come one day. And, you know, we got Carpenter, and you got these big names. But what about the names that don't get enough recognition, like Frank Hennenlotter? And we figured that it would be, like, cool to do, 2 separate, like, trilogies of films with him.
Why not? Right?
Why not? Why the hell not, man?
And it works out perfect, too, because he's only made like 6 feature films. So it just works out great to do 2 parts. Why not do the trilogy and the other 3? Interesting note about Frank Hennenlotter. I think Basket Case 2 came out in, 1990? I think is the year of release for it.
I think so.
They actually made Frankenhooker before, but it ended up getting released after Basket Case 2, oddly enough.
I did know that.
Kind of strange, but...
Yeah. So one of the things about doing these director spotlights is that there's a lot of directors to choose from. So I'm sure we will return. I know people have thrown out like Takashi Miike as well would be another cool one to do. Something else about Frank Hennenlotter, Moodz, you said we do the Basket Case trilogy and then sort of the only other 3 films that are real films that he did. Not real films, but, movies that he did.
Yeah.
And if he happens to direct another documentary before he leaves this earth, we could always do a 3rd Hennenlotter special where we cover his 3 documentaries.
Well, with that said, I was actually watching a documentary that was made for the Second Sight steelbook release of the Basket Case trilogy. It was exclusive to the release, and it's called "What's in the Basket." Appropriately titled, right?
Correct.
Really good stuff. And at first I thought it was just going to be talking about, Basket Case 1, but it's actually about, Basket Case 1, 2, and 3, and pretty much Frank Hennenlotter's career. And there is a point in his career, basically a lot of, mostly interviews with Frank Hennenlotter, up-to-date stuff. And there's a point where he does stress that he has actually worked on a script for Basket Case 4.
Yes, which actually is known for a long time now. I remember probably like 10 years ago, maybe not that long, but it was probably close to that long. I remember hearing rumblings about it on an old website that I used to go to frequently called upcominghorrormovies.com.
Yeah, he didn't actually, say anything about the script. He just said he's worked on it. He's got a little bit of it done. He says a really good idea. He doesn't know if it'll ever get made, but it is always sitting there on the table to get made. And
It was a really cool documentary because I learned a lot about Frank Hennenlotter. There was a lot of stuff in the documentary I knew, but I always wondered why Frank Hennenlotter took such a long period off of filmmaking, right after he did like, Frankenhooker to, I guess, Bad Biology. There's like a long break there, like something like 12 or 13 years or something. Well, I guess pretty much when Basket Case 3 came out, it was kind of at the end of where, 42nd Street was just, it had completely crumbled in like all the theaters and stuff, and all the independent theaters and everything was just crumbling. And those are the type of films that he made, and he wanted to show and stuff like that, and everything was just kind of not going the way he wanted to. And so he had a few ideas for films and stuff, and every time he pitched an idea for a film, whoever he pitched it to would say, no, we don't like that idea. And he was getting frustrated, and every time they would say no to his idea, they would say, why don't you just make another Basket Case film? So he got super pissed off basically with film and the whole industry. He actually decided to not make films purposely for a long time. And then he came back, of course, with Bad Biology years later. And, he's done his documentary since, but that's why there's a long period of no, theatrical films or, films in general for that long time period, which is kind of a shame that, that happened. But I do respect his decision to do that, because he made films, based on his ideas, and he didn't want to make films just for making films. Yeah. It wasn't about money with him. He wanted to do a product that he wanted to make and watch and enjoy. And he wanted to do these weird exploitation horror films and stuff. And if they didn't want to produce them, he didn't want to make them. Yeah. I love that about him, man. It's great.
That's a very sort of similar to the things that I hear Joe Lynch and Adam Green talk about on the Movie Crypt podcast all the time is you never know if the film that you're making now is going to be your last film, because of the landscape of Hollywood and the landscape of getting funding. You just never know. That's why they stress so much about people to not pirate and to support their art, so that they have opportunities. Because the money that they make, and a lot of people don't know this, the money they make is not the money that you pay to see the movie with. Like that money doesn't go to them. But what it does help them is if the movie does good, then more people want to make movies with them. Yeah. The studios are the ones that are making the money on the movies. But yeah, it's one of those things that it's kind of sad when you hear that somebody specifically stepped away from filmmaking because they couldn't make the movies that they wanted to make, because it's sad to think that there are people with like great ideas who literally just stepped away because they just couldn't get the funding for it. And speaking of a Basket Case 4, I think that a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo could be a good route for Mr. Hennenlotter to take, considering how much
I think it would take off.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I could just see something like that sort of taking off and getting its funding. I think somebody should tell him that. I'm sure somebody has, but I mean, like, seriously talk to him about it.
It'd probably a lot easier to raise money that way than the way he did for Basket Case 1. He talked about how, he had like $8,000 in his bank account, and he was like, oh, I want to make this movie, and I want to make this most ridiculous film ever. Like the idea of Basket Case to him was, I just want to make like the stupidest. I don't want to make a stupid film. I just want to make a film with a really stupid idea. Who knows? It might turn out good. It might not turn out good. The problem was he only had minimum money. He only had about $8,000. This is like 1981 or something like that. And what they were doing is they started to film this movie called Basket Case, and they would basically show clips to, certain people and stuff after they would film them. And that was their way of like getting investors to invest in the film. He ended up with like $35,000 or $36,000 to make the whole film. But that's how they did. And they filmed this over like a couple years kind of thing. Well, not a couple years. I think it was like a year and a half or something. It took them to actually accomplish this film because they didn't have any money. Mm-hmm. They would shoot some pieces, show it to a guy, and you'd be like, oh, here's $5,000. And then they go build some sets, and then they would build some more, some more Belials or something like that. Or they only used a couple, I think, or whatever. But it was to build the sets and, things like that. And he was literally kind of like writing the script as it went along. He had a script, but he would like write more parts. And I'm just like, that is, that's great. That's just hardcore filmmaking right there. But
so Moodz.
A little different nowadays where you can just set up on the internet and go, hey guys,
Yeah.
basket case 4, man, you know, press PayPal and send, and yep.
Yeah, you really had to grind back then.
That is
But,
grinding, man, especially in those days. Like, it's great. Great
yeah,
story.
I'm sure we'll talk more about the behind the scenes as we get to the feature reviews. But I got, Moods, have you ever? Okay, so when I was younger, I used to have this VHS tape, and it was The Wizard of Oz, and I did not
Never
have
heard
like a
of it.
sleeve for it or anything. It was just the VHS tape, and it was like didn't have a like clamshell or anything. It was just the tape.
Yeah.
And I always recognized that tape immediately on the shelf because the corner of it was cracked and there was black electrical tape over it. And it was my cousin Scotty's tape. And it was when he lived in this projects, and I'm talking like I was like 3. And so I had always known this tape for the longest time. It was it was always like passed around through the family, and the last person that had it was me. And I kind of forgot about it for a long time. And then I was going through a box the other day, and I found it, and I was like, wow, like this was my childhood. We watched this all the time. Isn't it weird how you can, see something that you haven't thought about in a long time, and it's like, oh yeah, this existed. I forgot about that. Anything like that ever happened to you? Maybe like recently, like today or anything?
Yeah, actually it recently did. This happened yesterday. I want to say this happened yesterday. So I was on Facebook and I was scrolling around, and I went on to, because last week we talked about VHS, and so I went into that group, the VHS Unite group, which is famous is in the documentaries and stuff, and you and Kyle are just kind of hooked on that web page or the Facebook page right now. And so I was like just kind of scrolling through there because I just like looking at pictures that people are posting. Just I'm always curious to see what they're selling and stuff. And I was scrolling through and I was having a good time, and I came across this picture of someone had posted a picture of the Street Trash big box released by Mega Films last year, and I was like, oh, and it just triggered a memory instantly. And I read his comment that he had posted with it, and it said, oh, this finally showed up in the mail. I thought it was just a myth. And I literally started laughing. I was like, holy shit, I never got mine. I had pre-ordered that big box, I believe in March or April of like 2015 or whatever it was.
So like a year ago.
Yeah, it's like over a year ago. And it was supposed to ship like, I believe in the summertime. Anyways, so I remember last summer when it did ship, and I was kind of waiting for it, never showed up. So, a couple months, or like I think about a month and a half went by, and I emailed them, no response. Another month went by, emailed, nothing. Tried to contact on Facebook, nothing to my bill. And this went on for a couple months, and I was like, okay, fuck, I just totally got screwed. Like, and it got me thinking too, because I hadn't seen anyone show off this big box. I'm like, did these things even ship to people? So I just said, fuck it. I got burnt. I'll take the loss. Big fucking deal. So anyways, yeah, I'm scrolling through the Facebook page, and so I see this picture. So I leave a comment, and I just said, man, that's awesome. I ordered one and I never got it. Well, to my amazement, not even like an hour later, the guy that runs Mega Films, or the guy that was shipping these things out, contacted me personally, and he said, hey man, what was the email that you bought this under? So I gave him the email that I thought it was under, and he got back to me like about an hour later, hour and a half, whatever it was, and he said, yeah, I don't know what happened, but we're gonna ship you out one like tomorrow, which is like today, I guess. And so hopefully I get it. Pretty crazy stuff.
That's
like,
crazy, man.
It is. It's like
when your Code Red box showed up like a year later.
I know, right? But that was even stranger because I didn't even know that was coming. That was just like out of the blue completely. But this is really random that I just happened to be scrolling through there, because to be honest, that Facebook group page gets like 1 million people posting a day, right? It's just odd even to find that post, relatively close to the top. But I'm glad I did, because hopefully I get it, and it looks sexy, and it's like one of my favorite movies. So I'm like, I'm getting really giddy right now. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's neat that that happened like that. That's pretty cool. That's actually really cool of the guy to acknowledge the fact that he might have messed up and reach out to you too. That's pretty cool.
And I didn't say to him at all, I'm like, hey, you never got back to me, blah blah. I was just nice about it. I was like, hey, I was like, cool, awesome. I was like, thanks for getting back to me, awesome. And So we had this like really kind of polite back and forth and stuff. I wasn't going to be a dick because what's the point?
Yeah,
right?
what's the
I'm not
point
going
now?
to be a dick now. He contacted me, went out of his way. So maybe, who knows, something maybe really did happen and maybe it was just an oversight and, that order got lost, or who knows? You never know with these things. So independent companies, one person running the show, oversight, who knows? It happens. I can't be mad. So, but I mean, I can be if it doesn't show up.
Yeah.
You're not going to do this to me twice. Come on. Yeah, good stuff. But yeah, should we maybe get into some news?
Yeah, man, let's do the damn thing.
All right.
So, I guess we could probably lead off with this. Scream Factory announced that they were releasing. They've announced that they were releasing Return of the Living Dead a long time ago, but they finally gave us like the full specs and the pre-order links just the other day. And it was kind of an interesting topic because it wasn't their normal sort of release. They kind of first they broke down like all the special features and stuff, which honestly I was pretty happy with that. Honestly, I thought it was pretty decent. But they also said that they were going to do a deluxe offer through their website only, limited to 1,000 orders. And what you would receive is the 2-disc collector's edition. You would receive a limited edition 18 by 24 poster of the newly designed artwork, a second slipcover, which has the alternate artwork on it that is exclusive to the deluxe offer, and also the second 18 by 24 poster of the newly designed artwork. Plus, you'll receive it, I believe, 2 weeks early.
I think they said 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah, 3 weeks early. So 3 weeks early, which the release date is July 19th. So you'll receive it sometime in late June, I guess.
Yeah.
Basically, the release itself has a new 2K scan, because there is a Blu-ray edition out already, but I guess this is a new one, a new transfer. A new audio commentary with the co-author of The Complete History of Return of the Living Dead and Chris Griffiths, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the sole people responsible for getting the Video Dead release. He was like championing it for a long time before then, and cool. I think he's the guy that does the commentary on Video Dead. That name just sounds familiar. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
It also has a commentary with director Dan O'Bannon. Of course, Dan O'Bannon is dead, so that's an old commentary. Beverly Randolph and Linnea Quigley's in that commentary as well. You got trailers, you got your behind the scenes stuff, your other little featurettes, and then the second disc has the new a new effects sort of documentary, or not documentary but featurette. Also has Horror's Hallowed Grounds, which is awesome. Come on.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
It also has the Return of the Living Dead work print, which includes 20 minutes of additional footage.
Yeah, that's the one feature that I'm like, yeah, in the hologram ground.
Yeah,
but those two right there, that's pretty cool. Those are good features.
More Brains, a Return of the Living Dead documentary, or the definitive Return of the Living Dead documentary, which obviously was on that UK Steelbook edition, which was one of our questions coming in. I remember you was like, well, how are they going to top that edition? Which I believe they did. They topped it.
All these features are on there.
Yeah, so it has all of the features that are on the Steelbook, but it has those new features as well, and the Horror's Hallowed Grounds and stuff.
I'm gonna have to do like a full. I don't. Is there different features on the second site that aren't on this one? I'm not actually 100% sure. I didn't do a side by side, but I know all the ones that are listed on there. That are definitely on that one. Does it? I mean, obviously the More Brains documentary on this version, or Scream Factory, is this going to be a high def release, right?
It does. It says on the standard def things, it says standard def next to it, and it does not say standard def next to the More Brains. So I assume that means that it's not standard def.
Yeah, I thought that was a really nice touch by Second Sight to have that documentary in high def. It looks great.
Yes, absolutely. So. Which would be great for me because I don't own the edition you're talking about, and I own the regular DVD, which was the only way to get it, More Brains. So it will be cool to own it in Blu-ray now. But yeah, so it looks like the newest things is the new audio commentary, and then the FX of the Living Dead, which is 30 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the Horror's Hallowed Grounds, obviously.
And the work print.
Oh, is that not on the?
I'm gonna have to take a look. I honestly can't. I want to say it isn't, but I'm not 100% sure. Like, as soon as I heard that, I was like, "Is it on there or not?"
Yeah, it's
And
not actually. I don't know if it's the actual work print edition,
or if it's just work print footage.
yeah, because that's actually a big deal. I would like to know that,
Yeah.
actually.
Because
But-
I've always heard about it. I've always heard
Oh
about
yeah,
it.
yeah. I've seen it online before. I've never watched it, but I've seen the full thing.
I wish I had thought of that before the show. I would have grabbed and did like a comparison, but I've been meaning to. I just keep forgetting to actually do it. So I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm really excited for the Horror's Hallowed Grounds because that is actually I'm really curious about the locations of Return of the Living Dead. Like,
Yeah.
very curious, because
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I often cite is what's really cool about that movie is the cemetery and the like morgue and like the locations is actually really really cool. It's very good. So let's talk a little bit about the deluxe offer. So
Mm-hmm.
basically all you're getting is an extra poster and an extra slipcover, which I don't know about you, but the
For
slipcover
$10 more,
thing-
right?
Yeah, so the regular pre-order I believe is $25 and the deluxe pre-order is $35 with free shipping.
Yeah.
So you get
For
it
you,
3
it's
weeks.
free.
For me, it's free. For the U.S. people, it's free, which surprised me because before they've done it and it was free for Canada too. So that's kind of
Yeah,
interesting.
it's $13. So if you're living in Canada and you're listening to this, it's $13. But it doesn't even matter because it's sold out.
Yes.
So
So basically, you get it 3 weeks early. You get an extra poster, and you get an extra slipcover. That's the selling point there for $10 more. Which honestly, I think that is a fair deal for the. I mean, you're paying $10 for a poster essentially.
yeah.
That's really what I think the value is, and it's like, hey, there's a bonus slipcover too with different art. But one of the things that's going to annoy me about the slipcover is I will probably I will buy a second edition of Return of the Living Dead at some point when it's like $10, and I will put that slipcover on it. So
This is going to be my 4th Return of the Living Dead Blu-ray in my collection.
Jesus,
No lies.
well, this is a perfect upgrade for me because I don't even own a standard edition of Return of the Living Dead. My edition is a 3-pack with 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later. So
That is so insane to me, dude.
for me, it's a big upgrade.
I got a couple different DVD versions. I got the one with the lenticular cover and the older one, you know, with like the other, like the original artwork.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I love Return of the Living Dead. So I'm
Yeah.
not really complaining. I mean, I kind of contemplated on ordering that. But then I was like, you know what? No, the price was like insanely high after shipping and conversion and stuff. But I was like, you know what? I thought about it and I was like, me personally, I didn't really need the posters and I wasn't trying to be selfish because I really can't stand having posters in my house that I'm not using, like on the walls. I like to get posters and frame them and put them up. I'm one of those type of people. It grits on me, man, if I have a poster rolled up. Like when Kyle got me that Tales from the Hood one and I didn't have a frame for it because I couldn't find one for like a long time, it was eating me up, man. I was dying. It was pissing me off. So I said, fuck it. Someone else can have it. And it sold out that day.
It drives me insane because I have probably like 10 Scream Factory posters that I don't have hanging. Like I have like
honestly, dude, I would
Shocker.
lose sleep over it. I'd be like, man, where am I gonna get those frames? And where am I gonna put these in the house? You know, I'm weird with posters, man. I always have been. Ever since I was a young kid, I've always loved posters on my walls and do my room. Like when I was a kid, I literally used to have my whole room was one collage. I used to read this magazine called The Source, which was the hip hop magazine back in the day. And after I was done reading it, I would literally cut out everything I wanted out of it, and I would make my whole room was just one fucking hip hop collage. It was ridiculous.
Yeah,
And
that's cool.
So I just love.
Yeah, and I do too. My only thing is like I got to get them framed. Like I have to buy more frames, and I don't know how many more I can hold. I'm saying like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7, 8, 9, maybe more posters. If I double them up, like I could maybe do a little bit more, but one thing that I do have is a More Brains poster. It's a smaller one. It's like 11 by 17.
Yeah.
And it's signed by like Scuzz and Tina, Beverly Randolph, and another. I don't know who the other signature is. I can't read it.
Where did you get that from?
When More Brains came out, if you ordered directly from the More Brains website when it was being made, it was like $25 and you got the DVD and a signed poster.
That's
so
right.
I'm looking at it like this. I have my 2 Return of the Living Dead posters from Scream Factory because I did pre-order it. And then I put the littler poster like in between it or like right below both of them or something. I think it would look pretty cool. So I already got it planned out. But I want to ask you this, Moodz. Let's say that there was like a third disc or something that had I don't know, some other special feature on it, like let's say like a half hour of something. Would that have been the selling point? Would that have made you pull the trigger on that?
Well, it's interesting that you ask me that question because so I was looking at it when they announced these features and stuff, and I said, okay, it's 2 discs, blah, blah, blah. Cool. And I should have did the comparison right then. I don't know what I was thinking, but I even thought to myself, it's really interesting you asked me this question. I said, now, if there was a third disc in this set and it was the soundtrack, I instantly would have bought it. I wouldn't even have hesitated because I love when releases come with soundtracks. I think it's one thing that Grindhouse does so well.
It's underutilized tool for sure.
It really is, man. Like Grindhouse, puts out these amazing editions, but they always throw in the bonus soundtrack with artwork and everything, and it's awesome. And it's such a great selling point because for me, I actually listen to those soundtracks. I love them, and that would for me. That's just that's
and especially a film like Return of the Living Dead, which is known partly for its soundtrack.
Yes, exactly. I would have snatched it up in a second. But I heard that, there's just no way that thing is getting... They probably could never get the rights to that shit.
Yeah, I guess so.
It hasn't even been re-released. Like the soundtrack, I think vinyl. I don't know if there ever was CDs of the soundtrack. I'm not even 100% sure. I know it's on vinyl for sure, but probably rights issues with it. So...
Well, I bet they're kind of looking at themselves now with it selling out in, a little over a day? Or a little under a day?
I swear it wasn't even 24 hours since they posted it.
Okay, so they sold 1,000 copies at $20 a pop, or $35 a pop. What's the math on that? It's
that is like 35,000.
Okay, let's say minus like 5,000 for shipping or something. They made $30,000 in 24 hours. Let's say if they would have spent, let's say, $20,000 to get the rights to I'm just making up numbers here, obviously, but let's say they spent $20,000 to snag those rights, and then let's say they bumped it up to they added the third disc of the soundtrack, and they bumped the selling point up to 2,500 or 3,000 copies. You think they would? I think that they probably could have pulled that off because they even said that they were a little surprised how fast those sold.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of fans of Return of the Living Dead. I was surprised that it sold out that fast, honestly, because
I was a little surprised when I saw it blacked out and said sold out. I was like, well, are you kidding me, really? But then I was like, it is one of those films.
But even Nightbreed, remember what was that? 10,000 copies.
Yeah, I think it was also you talking? Yeah, that edition was a little pricey though.
Yeah, that's true. This was fairly priced.
Yeah, and I think essentially what it comes down to is the price. Obviously, if
you was in the U.S., you would have pulled the trigger.
Oh, I mean, probably without hesitation. Yeah, and then it still would have bugged the shit out of me with the posters. Yeah.
Yeah, but Moodz, look, you just got to frame them and then rotate them seasonally.
I guess, but
that's what I plan on.
And then I would have to go out of my way because I'm so OCD, and I can already see eBay right now, like in front of me. I can literally see these fucking slipcovers, these second slipcovers on eBay right now, selling for like $30. People are gonna buy these things up. But
I would assume that my pre-order, because after 2 months of release, is already worth more than I paid for it.
Oh yeah. Well, just look at it this way: out of the 1,000 people that pre-ordered this, how many people are going to hold on to that slipcover? Because there's already a few other 1,000 people that wouldn't mind having that slipcover. So why not just put it on eBay, resell it, probably make your money back for the whole release on just from selling the slipcover, even poster wise. I mean, you're going to see these things all over the place because it's an extra slip. It's not like it comes attached to an Amaray case. It's a slipcover.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So I was kind of joking, but I said to myself, I was like, what am I going to do with the slipcover? Just go out and buy a standard Blu-ray case and just put this fucker on and just,
Yeah.
display it in my room.
I told you what I'm doing.
It.
I'm gonna buy a second copy of Return of the Living Dead when I could get it for about $10, and I'll put the other slipcover on it, and I'll have both releases kind of in my collection.
Yeah. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea. So.
But even that one release that came out, the 4-pack, the original 4-pack, that instead of the what was it? What's the Matter with Helen? Instead of that film, it had Lizard in a Woman's Skin. Remember that release?
Yep.
And it got pulled because they didn't have rights to Woman in a Lizard Skin. Some copies still made it out into the wild, and I've seen them sell for as high as like $65.
I just seen somebody post that. Someone picked one up in our group page there, and I was like, oh, and I've seen a few people actually pick them up before, and that's pretty cool. I always find that interesting too, because the Screen Factory canceled that version of the 4-pack because they couldn't get the rights to it, and then Mondo ended up putting out that amazing Blu-ray of the film uncut, just like recently. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
So it's out there. It's out there. Definitely way better than the Shriek Show edition. Don't get that. It's cut. So.
Yeah, so that is the Return of the Living Dead. I pre-ordered mine. I'm pretty excited for it. I mean, I'm mostly just super pumped to see it in HD finally, because I've never seen it in HD. And also, I love Horror's Hollow Grounds. Like, that's my favorite special feature besides documentaries.
Yeah, it's always fun to watch. It is actually cool. I remember when I first heard about the feature and stuff, and I was like never like stoked to watch it, and then I started watching his episodes, and I was like, this is really cool. It's actually really neat to see locations, and you're like, yeah, I recognize that. That's cool.
And he does a good job of hosting it too. Like, Sean Clark's the man.
Yeah, he's cool, man. He's a good guy.
Yeah,
for sure.
So let's move on with the news here. We have Predator, or The Predator. This is something that got announced a while back, but we've been kind of updating on it. It has a March 2nd, 2018 release date, but apparently the actor / hip-hop artist, if you want to call it that, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, is supposedly starring in this film.
Yeah.
Big fan of 50 Cent, Moodz?
No, not at all. To be honest, man.
Come on, get rich or die trying.
I'm not even one of those guys that
pop none. Come on.
I'm not even gonna say that, oh yeah, no. I'm hating just for the sake of being 50 Cent. I'm not a big fan of his style.
I'm not a big fan of his style.
Of his delivery and stuff, but
I'm not gonna lie that I did listen to that album when it came out. It was pretty hot and everybody was talking about it, and I was pretty young, but
yeah.
Honestly,
man,
I don't like his style at all.
A lot of the production on that record's good. I mean, you got, obviously Dre did some stuff on there, and Eminem, and among producers. The beats are good, man. I've just never been a really big fan of his style, like his flow. But I've always found 50 Cent to actually be not that bad of an actor. I know that might sound really strange, but the movie Get Rich or Die Trying?
Yeah.
He's actually not that bad in that. Like, he's
good.
I just find that he's kind of almost monotoned in a way, and like delivery. He's kind of robotic. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. And he's kind of robotic a little bit, but he pulls it off. He has this sensibility on screen that actually does kind of work. It's odd. I find him kind of a better.
Well, he definitely has charisma. Like you look at him and you're like, okay, this guy commands your attention.
Yeah, oddly enough, like this might sound a little odd, but he has a pretty decent smile, and maybe that's part of his charisma on screen for somebody that got shot in the face. He did
though. He got shot in the fucking face.
I know. He actually, he's got a pretty decent smile for that. But yeah, I don't know. But that's interesting. I actually had no idea that he was starring in this film.
Yeah, and apparently that the director and writer, which is Fred Decker's the writer. I forget who the director is, but
Fred. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Apparently, they are going to meet with Schwarzenegger, who obviously starred in the original Predator, to see if he wants to come back too, which would be pretty cool, honestly. So,
he's so good. It was so good. They were just waiting for Schwarzenegger to be done his his political reign in California so they could do this. Like, we're gonna wait till he's acting again, and then we're gonna give him a call.
Yeah, he came back for Terminator. So I don't see why he wouldn't come back for.
Isn't there a scene in that film where new Terminator is fighting like old Terminator?
Yeah, I think so.
Like I swear there is, man.
Honestly,
I think I heard
a
someone
lot
say
of
that
people
today.
didn't like it. I thought it was pretty good. It's better than the other ones, not 1 and 2, but the other ones that came after 1 and 2.
I honestly, part 3 is kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. I know it's not a great film, but I actually don't mind that movie. 4 is just terrible. I absolutely hate it. I saw it in the theater and I was like, this is so bad. It was so bad.
Yeah.
Ugh. That end of that movie. Ugh, man.
Yeah, so last week a few interviews came out with 50 doing like Sirius XM and stuff where he said that he was got some projects coming up, potentially even the new Predator. He says like, I think I'm going to do Predator or something like that. So he kind of broke his own news there. Hopefully that doesn't piss anybody off because...
No doubt, right?
But after...
Don't say anything, Curtis.
Yeah.
You know, and he's on fucking, what was he on, Shady 45 or something?
Yeah, probably something.
Probably, yeah.
That.
Yeah.
But so then we have Warner Brothers, I guess, like put the hold on Adam Wingard's Death Note. So now Netflix is getting behind the film, and it's going to be a Netflix film now. So
really,
yeah, it follows a student who discovers a mysterious notebook that kills whoever's name is written in it. When the student meets the notebook's previous owner, a demon bent on ridding the world of anyone it deems evil or useless, he ends up tracked in an Interpol officer investigating the unexplained deaths of several criminals. So
is this the movie based off the anime series Death Note?
I guess so. I didn't know there was one.
Yeah, I've never seen it before myself. I mean, I'm not saying that I hate anime or anything. I really don't know anything about it. I'm just not one of those guys who's going to go and say I know everything about it. No, but that kind of sounds familiar, and I just recognize the name Death Note. I'm wondering if this is like an American version of that story, based on the series.
Yeah, Adam Wingard's definitely got chops, so I'm always looking forward to anything that he does.
So what's the reasoning? What happened?
I don't know. It doesn't say. The
because
story
he's been
does
on,
not allude to why.
It's interesting because he's been on a pretty decent role, with You're Next and of course what did he do? The Guest. He just did The Guest. Mm-hmm. Right? So I mean those are some well-known heavy hitters. I mean he did ABC's of Death. He did VHS 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm. Both segments were pretty good, I think.
Homesick, I thought was a really cool film. It's funny because we just had this conversation on the group page the other day, and a horrible way to die. I really enjoyed that film. The dude makes good films, man.
Yeah, he does, and he kind of keeps a lot of the same actors in his films and stuff like that. So
yeah, cool.
So yeah, that's happening. Cool. After that, we have Gene Simmons is making a horror movie with Wesley Snipes.
Man, when I saw this post, I was just like, Gene, he never stops trying to make, like, can the guy have any more money?
Yeah.
Do you need any more money? Like, seriously, the guy probably he could die right now and still make like, $20 million a year just on royalties and residual. Like, how good? Yeah. Really, Wesley Snipes. Honestly, man, I used to be a big fan of Wesley Snipes. So.
Wesley's cool, man.
I know.
Like Wes.
But I just don't like. I'm not a big fan of like when people get involved. Like, is Gene Simmons like? Is he producing this film?
I believe he is with WWE, and one of the wrestlers, Seth Rollins, is gonna star as well. It's called Temple. It's a thriller.
Okay, so I wasn't sure if it was like WWE totally producing the film or if Gene was acting in the film, because I know Gene's done acting in his life. He's been in a few films, or if he was help producing, or if he's producing and acting. So does it have anything along those lines?
Nope.
No, it doesn't.
I think he's just producing.
I always remember that film that he did back in the early 80s. It was called, I believe it was called Runaway, and it was with I want to say Tom Selleck. Gene Simmons plays the villain in it. Man, that movie's awesome. That's some awesome shit right there. Gene played a great villain in that one. I mean, it's not like a great film. It's just awesome, if you know what I mean. But no, he can pull off those. He can pull off those characters. But
cool.
I don't know. I don't know, man. If he's just like producing a film, what is this going to be, like the slash horror film?
Yeah, right. They actually mentioned that in the article.
No way.
Yeah, because one of the stars in this one also starred in that.
No way. That's kind of funny. I had no idea, but I don't know, man. Well, anyways, getting back to the original point I was trying to make, some of these guys that aren't like huge horror fans that start like producing these films and stuff, generally they turn out to be terrible because, Gene is he's like a creative control freak,
Yeah.
It's the reason why Kiss has gone through so many band members. I don't know how him and Paul have just managed to stick together, but he's like that control freak. So I can see him he's like, well, I put money into this film, so I'm going to do it my way. And then the movie's going to turn out like fucking terrible shit,
Yeah. Anytime I think of Kiss, I think Detroit Rock City, which is my shit.
Which is good. That's good.
Yeah, Detroit Rock City is awesome.
I love that movie,
Fucking
man.
so fun. I love Detroit Rock City. I want to watch it right now. But so after that, Moods, we have The Walking Dead, the complete 6th season will hit DVD August 23rd. I'm not sure if they're doing like a super. I'm not seeing a super edition like they normally do right now. So I don't know if it hasn't been announced yet or what, or they're not doing one.
Oh, for Walking Dead season 6?
Yeah.
I know. I was wondering about that too. A little part of me says, I hope that they don't.
So you don't have to buy it?
So I don't have to fucking buy it because honest to God, I'm running out of room, man. Like I just redid this whole room and I'm like, where the hell do I put all these Walking Dead bus fucking things that are taking up so much damn room, man?
I've actually...
But I think the reason is, to be honest... I remember when they put out the second season one, which was the zombie head.
Driver.
Yeah, and that one sold like hotcakes, man. And then I think season 3 sold really well. And then the last season 5, I see those things in stores still everywhere. So I don't think it's sold well. Well, it's also because it went up 100. No, it's actually really good detail, dude. It looks fucking awesome, man. And it's really small.
I don't like those things, dude. Those things are lame.
No, I don't think so. I think they're really cool pieces. Honestly, man, if you've seen it in person, you probably have a different say on it. It's really well crafted.
I just don't like them. I don't like toys with they're just, I don't know, dude. There's just something about, I've never liked busts. I've never liked, the only one that I ever really liked was the Hellraiser Cube. Well, I guess the only two, and the Phantasm Sphere, because it was so fitting.
You got to bring up that old shit, don't you? I still mad about not buying that shit on eBay that time. I think I told that story last week.
I don't like those things, dude. I never have. I don't think I ever will.
I think they're just fantastic, man. I'm a really big fan. I'm not like a huge toy collector. I have my, a little bit of share of them and stuff, but I don't know. I like them, but at the end of the day, they just take up a shitload of room. They really do. They really do, and it's crazy. So, if they don't have a 6th season one, I'll be like, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, to be honest, I keep buying the series because I want those things. I do like them, but I've said in the past, man, The Walking Dead's not one of my favorite shows. It's a mediocre series in my opinion. Leave the hate comments down below. That show
that just blows. I can't even take. I can't believe that. It's just so hard for me to believe that it's mediocre. I've never seen past season 1.5, but I thought it was such good filmmaking in that first season. Like, I can't see how it would take a turn.
Well, it doesn't. The problem is that it just keeps repeating itself. It's the same shit every season. You got the same characters saying the same lines, and it's just, you have a lot of filler episodes, sometimes 3 in a row, and it's so boring. It is so boring at times, and then it picks up at the end of the season, and it's great. They have really slow downbeat episodes.
Yeah, but don't you think that that's like part of the strategy though? Like, because could you have those big moments at the end if you didn't spend that much time with the characters?
You don't have to spend 3 episodes. I mean, sometimes the characters aren't even in the shows, right? Like they spend so much time with just like one area and things, and it gets boring. It gets a little tedious to watch. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I mean, me and the wife, we struggled through season 4. I think it was season 4 was. The second half of that season was awful, really, really bad. Season 5 picked up; it was pretty good. I heard season 6 is pretty well done. So, who knows? We'll have to see. I mean, I like other horror shows out there a lot more. I just like there's other ones I like a lot more. I just have a lot.
Yeah, like Scream.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Looking forward to season 2, by the way. Yeah.
Well, I hear they're going like
it wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen. It just wasn't great.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not even watching horror TV right now. The only shows that I'm watching currently are Survivor, which is fucking amazing, by the way. I don't care what anybody says.
I would have no idea.
I'm a huge fucking Survivor nerd, by the way. If you listeners don't know that, I've seen every season, every episode, multiple times. And Orange is
I'm
the New
not judging.
Black. I just finished Orange is the New Black on Netflix. Lesbians in prison, man. It's pretty awesome. It's a really funny. It's a really well done, funny show. And you know what? The whole time I was watching it, I was like, yeah, this has like such a familiar feel. And then I realized I never noticed it before, but like it's from the creator of Weeds, which makes so much sense because I liked Weeds a lot too. And it's just like Weeds. It's similar. The humor is very similar. The characters are even very similarly done.
Yeah, my wife raves about that show all the time. She likes it.
Yeah, for some reason, girls really like it. Like I work with this girl who seems to like it. She's actually the one that got me to watch it.
Well, she actually told me that it was from the creators of Weeds, and we watched the whole Weeds series together, and she loved that show.
Yeah,
so
Weeds
makes sense.
Started off so good, like the first 2 seasons, and then it kind of got lame, like as it went. But I thought it wrapped up all right.
Yeah. The last couple seasons were pretty just all over the fucking place. They never know they didn't know what to do with that show. You know what I'm saying?
That's the problem with a lot of shows. I think Breaking Bad's the only show where I felt like they didn't fuck themselves with.
Yeah.
Write themselves into a corner. But seriously, man, I will say this time and time again. I don't really watch horror TV, which is just crazy. I should, because I hear it's like kicking major ass right now. So many people talk about horror TV in my regular life. Like I have my bosses are talking about Bates all the time, and like like Joe, my maintenance guy, is like talking about The Dead. He calls it The Dead all the time, and like I'm just like so out of the loop. And it's funny because I'm like the horror guy. And you know, but I watch non-horror TV a lot, and I am always, every time I walk away from a show or it ends or I finish a season, I'm always so blown away at how far and how amazing TV has gotten over the, present day. Like it just
has to be
how fucking well crafted some of these shows are that you seriously can't stop watching them.
It really has to be, though, because there's so many shows out there that someone's always going to be better than you. So you better write some pretty good shit.
Yeah, well, binge watching has become a pop culture like phenomenon.
Well, that's, media and Netflix and stuff. They'll release like whole series at a time. And you can just watch them all at once. It's the best.
That is honestly good. That's why awesome. I like Orange is the New Black, which I believe next month is the next season. So pretty cool. Pretty.
It's funny. It's funny that you bring up the horror TV because I just said the other night to my wife, I said, you know what, I'm gonna make a point of putting these Bates Motel series and American Horror Story seasons in our motorhome so I can watch this when I'm out camping. Like at nighttime, I don't go out there to watch TV, but I'm just saying I want to get these things watched so I can participate in these conversations.
Yeah, I really want to, because if you remember, I watched the first season of Bates Motel as it aired and the second season, I believe.
Well, who knows, man? Maybe if this Tales from the Crypt reincarnation actually pans out and it turns out to be like an anthology based show, who knows? We don't really know 100% what's going on.
Yeah, if it's good, we might have to do like a weekly recap of an episode at the end of our show or something.
Yeah, we could. Maybe that'll just be the kick in the ass I need to actually start watching these series that I've been neglecting for way too long. I mean, the thing is, I'm not going to go out and watch all of them. Maybe I'll get to From Dusk Till Dawn someday. Maybe I'll get to this one or whatever. But there is a few that I have to watch, and it's going to get done. I promise.
Yeah,
me too.
Me too. I swear.
Yeah. Pinky swear.
So after that, we have, this is the last little bit of news here that I picked up. We have the Doctor Sleep, which is the sequel to The Shining, is supposedly getting its feature film adaptation, and Warner Brothers is going to be producing it.
Warner Brothers.
Yep. Which they released the first Shining, huh?
Yes. Any word on director? Obviously, Kubrick's not directing it.
Well, the screenwriter is Akiva Goldsman, Academy Award-winning screenwriter.
Yep. Well, they better get someone decent. I can already see the reviews on this one. Well, it's no The Shining. It's no Kubrick.
Yeah. Goldsman is also the writer of the upcoming adaptation of The Dark Tower.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Yep, so that's sort of the only news we have right now, while King will serve as an executive producer.
Executive producer. Wow. Interesting.
So yeah, that is the news.
All right. Moving along into the trusty mood swings with the DVD and Blu-ray releases for April 12th, 2016. And we got a pretty good week this week, actually. Not too shabby. April's not bad. Next week is just insane. There's so many releases. Well, I shouldn't get everyone's hopes up, but there is a fair amount of really good ones next week, but this week's pretty good too. So let's get right into this. First up, we got from Arrow, we got Bride of Reanimator, Ridiculous Deluxe Edition. Believe it's limited also. It looks good, man. Looks really good. I love Bride of Reanimator, and
I want to do the trilogy one day.
Yeah, man. I honestly, yeah, fun films. But
did Stuart Gordon do all three or no? No.
Yeah.
Did he?
No, I think he directed part 1 and 2. And who did the third one?
Did Yuzna do one?
Maybe. I'm totally blanking on it right now. I'm totally blanking. But yeah, Bride of Reanimator, man. Fun sequel. But yeah, just getting a ridiculous edition from Arrow. So, obviously for pre-order. They think they already announced that they are releasing like a standard edition of this too. So if you miss out on this one, you can get the standard edition, which is not that big of a deal. But yeah, really cool stuff. I kind of went back and forth on this one. I wasn't originally going to pre-order this, and then I decided to pre-order it. I was like, screw it, I'm going to. I did. So it's coming. Next up from Scream Factory, we got Jonathan Carpenter's remake of Village of the Damned. Yeah, I've been pretty vocal about this release. Not the release, about the film in general. It's one of my least favorite John Carpenter films, to be honest. I think it's a really not great remake. And I know that you said that you like the commissioned artwork for this collector's edition. I really don't like it.
I didn't like it. I just said it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I really don't care for the commissioned artwork on this either. So this release to me is just kind of like, it's a total meh. I'm not really excited about this one at all. I know some people are. I've heard some people express like, yeah, I love Village of the Damned. And I'm like, have you seen the original? But no, Village of the Damned from Scream Factory. Now this release right here is pretty interesting from Cult Epics. The release is called Sex Murder Art, the films of Jorg Bucharest, or however you want to say his name. I'm sure I butchered that as usual. Bucharest. Of course, this one has Necromantic, Der Todesking, Necromantic 2, and the newly released, I think comes out next week, Schramm. So, very, very cool collector's box set. I don't know if this is limited at all, but the cool thing about this is I believe it has all the special features from all the previous individual releases, but it also comes with exclusive CD soundtracks for Necromantic, Der Todesking, and Necromantic and Schramm.
God damn it. I didn't know it had that.
I know. So every disc is like the normal Blu-ray discs, and then it has 2 CDs also in it. I'm like, fuck. I was like, damn, that's so cool.
Man, I know you guys were not that high on the Necromantic films and Der Todesking, but I honestly think of them fondly. Like, they stick in my memory. Like, I think they always come up in my thoughts when I'm thinking of different things. I don't know. They stuck with me, dude. Like, they might not be the best movies in the world, but I like all 3 of them, including Der Todesking, which I know you guys were I actually gave that a positive review.
Mm-hmm.
No, everybody always references that we hated it, and I'm like, I don't think any of us actually hated it, and no, I also actually liked it.
I think, we said a lot of positive things. I don't hate any of those movies, to be honest. I just, some of our our ratings were a little higher than others. I prefer Necromantic 2 over the original. It is what it is. But if you're wondering what the set costs on Amazon, the pre-order price right now is $99.95.
That is insane. Okay. So that is fucking insane. Like, I was thinking like 50.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if this is going to be a thick box set, so it's not just the discs in there. I'm not 100% sure how they're doing this. Like I said, it comes with the 4 films and then the 2 soundtracks. So, what do the Cult Epics releases sell for down in the US? Because here they're like $34, $35 a piece. So like if you okay, so 20, so 80. So yeah, I guess they're just kind of averaging it out, I guess. But yeah, $100. for that if you're interested in the 2 soundtracks. If you have all the other individual releases, I won't be picking this up. There's no way I'm going to pick this up just for the soundtrack. So, but
I'm curious if I'm even going to get a copy of these Scram, because
I already pre-ordered mine at a price way too fucking high because I'm in the land of Canada.
Which, by the way, we will be covering Scram when we get it.
Yeah, we'll be doing a review of that one too. Next up here from Mondo Macabro is what I think is a kind of a lost film called Medusa. I know our boy Derek knows a lot more about this film than I do. He said he'd heard about this one before. I believe this is the one, or maybe I'm thinking of the other film. I know he just watched this one recently, and he said it was very, very strange. But I'm very curious on this one because Mondo's released a couple Greek films just recently, and this is like another Greek film, so I'm very curious to check this out. Do have this one pre-ordered myself, so I'm looking forward to checking that one out. This double feature I've been so excited for a long time. It's finally getting released, and from Scream Factory we got Destroyer and Edge of Sanity with Mr. Norman Bates himself, Anthony Perkins, which I love. I love Edge of Sanity. I think it's a fantastic take on, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type thing. Great stuff. And Destroyer, oddly enough, I've never seen it. It's an 80s film I've never seen before. Never remember seeing this VHS in my stores, so fucking ultra stoked to check this out. Can't wait to see it, man. Looks pretty cool. Next up from... Who's releasing this one? We got Lionsgate's releasing this one called Flight 7500. Man, another one of these fucking flight films. I don't know. I never know what to think about these ones. What it is.
Hey, Moodz, just to kind of go back to the sex, murder, art thing here. It looks like there's 2 versions of Necromantic on it. Was there 2 versions on the original?
Oh, I actually forgot to say that. Yeah, I was so hopped up on talking about the soundtrack set. I don't believe that there was 2 versions. I think that's another feature on there. So I don't know if that's still enough to warrant, double dipping on that or triple or
no, definitely not. But for people who don't own any of those films, I mean, I'm looking at the lineup here, dude. There's a lot of good stuff on there. I mean, hell, Corpse Fucking Art is a documentary, and that was on the Toads King, but I mean, it's pretty cool. There's some short films. There's
I think there might actually be more short films on this release than the releases.
Yeah, there's like mistaken. 4, I think, on this release.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool.
Live concert of Necromantic 2, exclusive CD soundtrack for Necromantic, and Toads King, exclusive CD soundtrack for Necromantic 2 and Scram. And a 40-page perfect bind booklet with interviews and exclusive photos.
I'm curious on that concert, that Necromantic concert. What the hell is that, man?
Oh, man. Yeah, but for real, though, I mean, this is a well put together set, no doubt. But for somebody who owns 3 out of the 4 films, it's definitely not worth the upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
But I will be picking up Scram for sure.
Yeah. All right, so next up here we got The Forest, which I've heard relatively a lot of mixed opinions on it. What have you heard on this one?
Mixed opinions.
Yeah, it's been very, very back and forth on it. I thought it looked kind of interesting. I believe it's a PG-13 horror film, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, you kind of know what you're going to get with that. It's going to be a little dumbed down. But sometimes they're good. You can't always hate on PG-13 films. Sometimes they're really good. I love the title of this film right here. This one's being released by Magnolia, and it's called Lady in the Car with Glasses and a Gun. It's like, just sounds like an American attempt at like a giallo name right there. This fucking cracks me up. Totally cracks me up, man. I love it. Like Lady in the Car with 7 eyeglasses and deadly scorpions. It'd be like, that's the Italian version of that one, but I don't know. I'm assuming this is a revenge film of some sort.
I would assume so.
Then we got this one, when this one got announced, really, really looking forward to this one. From Kino, we got Shadows in an Empty Room from 1977, also known as Blazing Magnum. Never seen this one. I know about this film.
Is it a revenge film?
I don't. Maybe it is. I'm not 100% sure. I just know the title. I know it has John Saxon in it also, which is always a selling point for
I'm
me.
assuming it's something to do with a blind woman.
Could be. Martin Landau's in this one too, but you know, Kino, they're always releasing good stuff like quite regularly. Now this one, I burst out laughing when I saw this earlier today. From Bayview Entertainment, we got a film called Ghost Box, and man, the cover art on this, holy shit! Wow. At first I thought it was Wild Eye. I could have sworn it was going to be a Wild Eye release.
Yeah, it looks like a Wild Eye cover.
It's totally not. It's totally obviously a ghostly. It looks like a combination of like a really shitty, independent, low budget, ghostly mixed with like Hellraiser and like
mixed with like a comic book
and slasher. I don't know. It just looks ridiculous, but it doesn't look that good at all. And then we got another release here that I've been pretty stoked about. I know we talked about this one a few times on the podcast. And it's being released by FilmRise, so this is going to be a burn-on-demand type release, and it's called German Angst. So, very, very stoked to check this out. It's an anthology film.
George Bertgright film, which we should cover, honestly.
Yeah, we should. I'm just wondering how we can get that.
Yeah, you know, see, I don't know, man. I thought that I was going to get a copy of The Bunny, the Killer Thing, but I still haven't got it. Do you know if any of the other guys got theirs?
Nobody has got their copies yet. Apparently, I'm actually getting one too, so we'll see. I don't know. I'm really surprised that they haven't got theirs yet because obviously they would get theirs before me. So maybe delay with the shipping. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just really hoping. Like these are expensive. It's gonna suck to have to buy these, but I will.
Are these are these burn on demand's expensive releases? Because I think
$20.
This one was going for $20.
Yeah.
Oh yikes! Gross. That's crazy for burn on demand. Like,
but
really
I've heard pretty interesting things about German Angst. Like I heard at least 2 reviews, I believe.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah. Of course, that's the anthology with Jörg Bergkreit directing a segment. Goran. You know what? I'm not even going to attempt it.
A couple other German directors with names we cannot pronounce and are not going to attempt.
Yeah, I believe there's 3 segments.
Yeah, 3 German tales of love.
And I want to check it out.
Sex and death.
Yes. I love sex and death. And what was the other one?
It says sex and death in
love,
Berlin.
Love too.
3 German tales of love, sex, and death in Berlin. I love that how it gives you the setting of it. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And last up for the DVD and Blu-ray releases for this week is going to be the film that we've mentioned 4 or 5 times already, and that is called Epic's release of Shram. Now, that's interesting that they're releasing this the same time as the box set. Do you think that's smart? Probably not.
Well, it's fair is what it is. It's for
fair.
People who don't want to buy the box set, which is not. It's a nice gesture. Is it good for the top dollar? Probably not.
Yeah, no. But like I said, I mean, I got this one on pre-order, so the box set will have to go to someone else. But I can't wait to see this, man. I've never seen the movie. I've never seen this one. I've never seen it. DVDs like long out of print and really hard to find, and very excited. Cult Epics, man, releasing some really good stuff. They just don't release a lot of stuff.
Which I'm cool with.
Really cool stuff. But
I'm cool with them putting out 3 or 4 titles a year that I want.
That's right. Now,
did you say Flight 7500?
Yes.
Oh, that is a film that has been not even hinted at, but it's fucking been in limbo for years, I think.
Really? Like when was this thing supposed to come out? Like 10 years ago kind of thing?
Like probably like 3 at least.
Oh.
I would say it's from the director of The Grudge.
Oh. Cool. You never know what to expect with these flight horror films. I don't know, man. They're very, very hit and miss. Who knows? Maybe it's decent. Maybe it's a ghostly on a plane. I don't know.
It has Scout Taylor Compton in it.
Oh, yeah.
Who I'm looking at IMDb right now, and she now has black hair.
Really?
She looks a lot different.
So, the question is, right now, what is my pick or release of the week? This is interesting, because now, pregame we were kind of talking about this, and JP had no idea what I was talking about because I was muttering underneath my breath. But I was saying now you could go either way on this. Now my options were here for this week is either Bride of Reanimator Arrows Edition, which is pretty damn cool, pretty stacked, very very nice, or the Sex Murder Art, the films of Jörg Buttgereit, or however you want to pronounce it. Now it depends on what your stance is, and if you have the solo releases already of Necromantic, you're probably not going to go for this box set. You know, is this the one I'm going to recommend for you to get? I don't know. Bride of Reanimator, it just all depends on how you look at this, right? You see what I'm saying now?
I honestly think there's even another one you could throw in there with Edge of Sanity.
Yeah,
because of price. Like, Bride of Reanimator is $40.
Mm-hmm.
Is that... Cause do you factor that in with the release of the week?
I actually don't. But then again, I've never really had an option of a box set that was $100. But now that kind of sticks out as a big, it's kind of a red flag for a lot of collectors and buyers, right? Like, who's just I'm going to spend $100 on this? Maybe not. Yeah, Bride Reanimator, $40, pretty pricey.
That's way too much.
Yeah, and then we got this Scream Factory double feature. It's really tough, man. It's really tough. But ultimately, I think I'm actually going to go with the Arrow Bride of Reanimator as my pick of the week this week. So it is a little bit pricey. It is a little bit pricey, but I think that, just what Arrow's doing, their features, their packaging, everything, it's just such a great release. I mean, if you're a collector, which a lot of people are of Arrow products now because everyone's starting to realize how good they really are. Probably going to go for it. Probably going to go for Bride of Reanimator. So, but yeah. Most people are probably going to pick up Destroyer and Edge of Sanity anyways too. But
yeah, I think that was the first week where I would have picked something different.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I was actually considering going with Medusa just because it's one of those films that I've been dying to watch too ever since they announced it. Every time Mondo announces something, I'm just like, fuck, that's amazing. I never heard of that shit. So, and that's what kind of tickles my pickle, man, is when these companies release shit that I've never heard of, and I'm like, that's just bonus for me. Yeah. I'm not double dipping, I'm not upgrading, I'm not doing anything. I'm just like, that's a brand new film to my collection. Yeah. So.
All right, so this week, Moodz, do you know if we have any written questions?
I don't believe we have any written questions. Right. Sadly enough, nobody listens. No, no, there was no questions that I know of. No. Do we have any voicemails?
We have one voicemail, so we will get into that from not a long-time caller, but a caller who we've had call before and who has called back. So I'm going to go ahead and play that.
Hello, 22 shots of Moodz and Hara. You know who I am. I thought I should call in after a certain phone call from a redneck followed the question to my true identity. And it is also very important that you know he hasn't actually been the one who's done these voices. But if you must know, because I will tell you. In fact, Igor, I think we probably should. Because after all, who would ever guess that it would be Lawrence that is doing these voices? And it certainly wouldn't make much sense for me to call in as a redneck at this point. I like doing characters with a little more personality. In fact, I'm kind of wondering whatever did happen to the phone call I gave you as Pablo. I'm going to continue to do these phone calls, but I thought you should at least know so there's no confusion. And I might have a few surprises for you, including a possible call-in from a green-shoed little demon that you may know from the hood. Anyway, bye, guys.
So
did he have a voicemail as Pablo?
You know what, man? It is not ringing a bell. So apparently he did. Maybe, sometimes, guys, when you guys leave the voicemails, we had a situation last week or the week before with Rob where he lost service. which is entirely possible because I know Lawrence has lost service in the past, so maybe that's what happened.
Yeah, we've definitely not played a couple just because they were cutting out really bad. So, and you wouldn't know if you're leaving the voicemail necessarily. So
Lawrence kind of lifts the veil a little bit and lets us know that it was him. But he said he did not do the redneck, so we still have one more mystery out there.
Yeah, that's funny. That is super funny. Corn dog. Maybe it's corn dog.
Yeah, it's somebody, man. I don't know. But yeah, you know, I think that those things are awesome. Like Lawrence does a really good job with those. I'm actually. Do you actually know who Lawrence is?
Nope.
Because like he calls in all the time, and I feel like we know him, but like I don't think I've ever seen him on the Facebook group, or like I don't know if he's ever left comments, or at least I don't know what his name on YouTube would be.
I'm pretty sure that there's no one in the group with the name Lawrence, or maybe goes by Larry or something. I don't even think there's a Larry. So
I don't think anybody goes. Do people who are named Lawrence go by Larry?
Yeah, I have a friend named Lawrence that goes by Larry.
Huh.
He's my buddy that owns the shop I get all the cool VHS from. Yeah.
I have a neighbor named Larry who goes by Chuck.
Chuck and Larry? Like the
no,
movie?
That was before the movie, but he just everybody calls him Chuck for some reason. I don't know if it's
what the fuck? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make any sense. Weird.
We had a neighbor named Mary. She's died now, but her name was Mary Yano, like two names, like first and last. And as kids, we thought her name was Mary Ann O, like Anno, and like it was just one name, Mary Anno.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so keep them coming, Lawrence. Looking forward to our little green-shoed friend from the hood.
So we have no questions this week.
Nope.
Not a question out there.
Well, we did get a little bit of feedback, which...
Wow, that has got to be the first in a long time that we have not had a question.
I know.
That's really crazy.
So
I mean, it does make sense because no one listened to the Red Sun Tower episode. So, I mean, I don't know why. The fuck.
Yeah.
They saw the toe tag.
It's just not a title.
Like, well, no, they saw the toe tag and like, oh, fuck those August Underground films. It's probably another shit August Underground film.
Yeah, well, if you didn't listen to the goddamn toe tag Red Sun Tower episode, you're doing yourself a disservice because there's a very funny story that happens in the intro.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's good shit.
But yeah, we did get a little bit of feedback on YouTube, and it got me and you to chatting a little bit. And somebody said that they wish they like our show or whatever, but they wish that I think they said they're always behind or something, or somebody else said that, I don't know, but they were wishing that our show was only an hour long. And that's not a new question. We've asked that before. We even put a vote up like a year or two ago asking, you know, what do you guys like? The longer shows or the shorter shows? And most people said the longer shows.
Yeah. Because a lot of people do a lot of people seem to do the exact same thing, is that they download the audio and they put it onto an iPad, whatever the fuck it is, and they listen to it in their vehicle and shit like that. I've gotten that from a lot of people. So they're listening to it on the go because it's long and they like that about it. You know, it kind of passes that long period of time, so it makes sense.
My like me as a podcast listener, I prefer shows that are around 2 hours long. Unless it's a show I really, really like, in which case, 3 to 4 is cool.
I don't even notice, man. Like when I'm listening to Killer POV, for fuck's sakes, man, every show it seems like I listen to, I'm like, I wish that shit was longer. And their shows are long.
Yeah. Well, that's like what I was saying though. Like that's one that I really like, that their length never bothers me.
Yeah.
But I'm the different type of podcast listener. I listen to anywhere from 15 to 20 podcasts a week. No joke.
This is why you only watch like 3 movies. Spending all your fucking time listening to other podcasts.
I listen to podcasts while I play video games and while I work.
That's probably a good time to do it. Yeah, working, playing video games. Why not, right?
Yeah. So the only thing that I don't like about longer shows when I'm at work is that I like hearing okay, here's my thing. Like, I listen to MMA podcasts and horror podcasts. I listen to about 4 or 5 MMA podcasts, and those are typically between an hour and 2 hours. And I like to go back and forth. MMA, horror, MMA, horror. And one of the things that always bugs me is when a horror one is like overly long and I'm not getting back to, I like to break up the podcast. Like, I don't like listening to the same thing for that long. I want to hear some different topics to keep my day moving fast. And so some of the longer horror podcasts I kind of avoid just because I like to cover a lot of ground in my day. Unless, like I said, it's one of my favorites, or if it's like a big show or something like that. However, I'm very unique because I listen to like 15 to 20 podcasts a week. And when I play games, I prefer
that's probably
the shorter ones too, because I don't play games that long.
It's probably one of the reasons why you like them shorter, because you have to listen to 15 to 20 different fucking shows a week, man. Yeah, I probably wouldn't like them 4 hours long either if I was listening to that many. I mean, it goes with film watching too. I mean, I watch a lot of films, and I generally like my movies to be like 80 to like 95 minutes, you know? And sometimes I'll pick films based on the time that I want to review. Say on Body Bags, I'll pick a film that's 84 minutes long purposely. Not always, but I do it sometimes just based on time or whatever, you know? So I guess it just all depends.
Yeah, I mainly like watching shorter films, but so the thing is first of all, our show will never be an hour long. I can't see any situation.
Our goddamn intros are like an hour long.
Yeah, so that would never happen. However, I did consider, because, you know, I've heard people say this before, the news segment. So we do the news at the beginning of the show, and it typically lasts an hour to an hour and a half between news and DVD releases. Now, that's really cool for a weekly format where every week you come to us, you get your news, and you hear what's going on in the horror world. But it's not the greatest scenario for retro listening. So we had recently Jill and someone else. Dave is going through our old catalog right now, and they're starting on episode 1. I think Jill just finished up, and you know, you got to figure you're listening to an hour to an hour and a half of dated content before you ever get to.
I guess it depends on how you look at it, right? Like, I mean, I was telling you a story, you know, earlier tonight about Rue Morgue, and how I opened up to, you know, I was looking for the morbid fact of the day, and I opened up to an article on Byzantium, the Neil Jordan film, and you know, I was in the bathroom, I was taking a poo, I'm not gonna lie, and so I started reading it, and it was just like great, and I started kind of flipping through the Rue Morgue, and I was like, oh, that's cool, man, that's cool. See, I have a totally different mentality when it comes to, like, you know, dated, quote unquote, or whatever. I don't see it as that, man. I love looking at, I just see it as like being like kind of almost like a retro thing. I love going through like old magazines and reading articles.
Slightly different though, because I like doing that too.
But
I also like hearing podcasts where they talk about old news sometimes. But the problem isn't that. You know, I'm doing it here and there. It's literally an hour and a half of every show in our catalog. You know what I mean? So if you're
the average, I mean, with our intro and the news and stuff, yeah, it can be about an hour and a bit, but you got to remember the intro sometimes 15, 20 minutes.
Also the DVD releases as well. Right?
Yeah, it takes 15 minutes tops for the DVD releases, so it's not that big of a time constraint on people.
Okay, so let's just even say an hour then.
I just kind of look at it as like an archive, you know. It's just like, you know, this is kind of like a time capsule, you know. Episode 4, I don't know what episode 4 was of our show. I could not remember. I'm sure someone could tell me. But if I went back and listened, I'd be like, that's cool. That's what was happening at that time.
Yeah, but I think the only thing, Moodz, is I think when you're looking at it in like a small sample size. Like if I went back and checked it out, yeah, it'd be cool. But you got to realize most of these people that are going back are listening to a couple episodes a week to kind of catch up or whatever, which is what I do when I find a new podcast I like. I go back to the archive, start from the beginning, and catch up.
I think it's probably a very small percentage of people that find the show, and they probably check out the ones that they want to. These are like super fans. Like we got like Dave and from Exploding Heads horror podcast, and Jill. They're like super fans. Like I bet you they're a small percentage of the fans that are willing to go back to episode 1 and work their way all the way through until episode 76. Excluding this one. I think it's a small percentage of people that are willing to do that. I think the majority of people that would find our show and see the big list of episodes on iTunes, they would go through and they'd be like, okay, I want to watch, or I want to listen to Children of the Corn franchise. I want to check out the Silent Night Deadly Night one. Maybe they're just into franchise. They're going to check out, they're probably all going to,
which is mostly the case. That usually is what happens.
And this is what I'm saying. So your argument is applying to like such a small minority of people, but and we all know one thing: everyone's going to skip Spider Baby.
Yeah.
We always like to joke about that, but I'm just saying it's a small thing. I mean, these are super fans. Like, to be honest, I haven't gone through like all the ranks of like Killer POV and like other podcasts.
But that's the thing, though. You're not a big podcast listener, too. You started now, but how long have you actually fucked around with podcasts besides doing them?
Not a whole lot. I listen to podcasts here and there. I was never, because to be honest, I never really had the time to sit there and listen to them. Like, I mean, honestly, with my job, I can't just listen to, because I have other people that I'm delegating all this. I just can't do it. I don't have headphones on and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm at home. It's just
you just record video shows in a closet.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But precisely. Yeah. It was like 3-hour lunch breaks. But I guess in those days I could have, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I just don't really have. Because I'm one of those type of people that and I know you're kind of like this too. Like when you start a film, no matter how shitty it is, how fucking bad it is, I always have to finish the film. I always hear about these people like, man, I turned that shit off after 20 minutes. I'm like, who does that shit? Who turns off a film after 20? I've suffered through films that suck for 45 minutes and then turned out to be amazing in the end. Like, awesome. So I always kind of suffer through, and this is why I do it. So if I start something, I want to finish it. So if I'm going to start like a podcast that's 4 hours long, I'm making sure that I have a 4-hour gap in my day where I'm going to listen to it. So
I listen to podcasts a little bit differently. I at the beginning of the week, I download like 10.
I don't like to listen to podcasts in kind of breaks. Like I listen to like an hour.
That's how
here
I
and there.
do it.
See, I
listen,
don't.
Because it's my, I'm working too, so I have to pause a lot. But, so I'll listen to like 10 different podcasts, and sometimes I'll make it like an hour through one, and I'll do something else, and I'll have to pause it, and then I'll go and listen to like a different one, and then I'll come back to that other one. Like the Exploding Heads podcast took me a week to get through because it was 4 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one, the Tales from the Hood anthology one that they did. So, I listen to a lot, and I've been listening to podcasts for over 6 years. Okay. Like I've listened to thousands of podcasts by now, tens of thousands probably. And I know I've listened to shows that are gone, shows that only lasted like 10 episodes, shows that have gone on and are still going. I've seen all types of shows. I've seen all these different kinds. I've sat through Doctor Who episodes simply because I like the podcast, and I was just like, well, I gotta listen to all their episodes, so I guess I'm stuck listening to this shit. And so I have seen shows that do cover news, and I personally do like, especially when it's really old, like if it's from like 2006 or something, like there's the landscape was so different, and you kind of get a sense for it. But at the same time, like I do get, like, after hearing like 6 or 7 episodes in a row where there's like an hour of news, like sometimes, like, as like, I guess what you'd say a super fan, like hearing that, it does get like, I kind of want to get into the meat and potatoes of the show. And I'm not saying that, that it's necessarily bad or we need to stop doing it or anything. I'm just talking about it. And what I wanted to do was just ask everybody else, like, because you said, they probably hear one episode, or like they search for probably the Elsa show now. Like people are finding the Elsa show.
Yeah, everyone likes the Elsa over the Spider Baby, just put it that way.
And so they hear the Elsa show and they're like, oh, these guys are pretty cool. Like I'm gonna check out some of that other stuff. And then they go down the list on iTunes and they're like, okay, let's check out the Silent Night Deadly Night one. Let's check out the, the fucking what we have.
Well, how many people have
100
said that
episodes? And I can't even.
they found our show through the Masters of Horror one? That one did really well.
Yeah, or they
Like,
find the
people are
Masters
really
of Horror one or whatever, and they start downloading all these shows and stuff. I don't know. Are those people kind of turned off by the news? I would be curious to know. And
it's a variable of things, man. We've had our fair share of criticism and things. And I'll never forget the one guy. I can't remember what episode it was, but he was like, "Yeah, I have to stop listening to the guy." I don't even know why he left the comment, but I always remember this because it was funny to me that he actually left this comment for us to find, to read. It fucking blew my mind. It was so funny to me. But he's like, "That's it." He goes, I love Moodz and JP, but I have to stop listening to the podcast because I hate Jeremy so much. I'll never forget that comment.
No, my favorite one ever was like every week I try listening to the podcast, and as soon as Jeremy opens his mouth, I shut it off.
Yeah, and that's just shit that I remembered. I'm like, see, this is the thing. It's just variables, man. Like,
Well,
some people don't like Jeremy. I'm sure there's people out there that don't like me, and maybe they don't like you.
No,
I mean,
that's crazy.
It is what it is, but like, I mean, there's also certain parts of the shows that, they probably like better. Maybe they like what we watch. I mean, we got a lot of positive feedback from our format, just going back and forth and reviewing 10 films.
I think what we watch is
fun.
people's favorite segment, like the majority of people's favorite segment.
I think it depends on what we're doing. We did a fair share of like, modern films and some older ones too. It was a good kind of blend right there, but
well, obviously, there's always going to be like this person likes that, and this person likes this, and this person prefers this.
Look at Zach. I remember him making a post one time. We had a couple week layoff on the show, and he goes, "I have no idea what's fucking coming out this week for DVD and Blu-ray releases because the podcast hasn't been on for a couple weeks."
Yeah, I know that there are people that do rely on the podcast for that stuff. So, I'm 100% with you. And Zach is one of the people that always mentions the news. Like, he doesn't even look at news because he just waits to hear about it on the podcast. Well,
that's like me too, because I like to have sometimes I can't avoid some of the things that we talk about.
Yeah, obviously.
But like, I really like to avoid it because there was pieces tonight I was like, oh really? Awesome. Like I had no idea. Like 50 Cent starring in the new Predator film. I had no idea. See, I liked being shocked by that. So like, I like doing the news. I mean, it's just, I guess it was a case of people
obviously
listen to it. It is what it is, I guess.
Obviously I'm a little bit biased as well because I have to get the news. So like,
well, and that's what I was going to bring up too. Yeah. Cause that's what, that's your thing. You do the news and stuff. And it's definitely probably the most work for it because it's gathering pieces from sources. It can be a little tedious at times, especially on slower weeks, or maybe everything's just kind of carried over from the week before, and which we have decided in the past. Because remember, we used to kind of talk about relatively the same things from week to week or whatever, if they just kind of carried over, and then you're like, "Okay, fuck it, I'm grabbing like the main points, the main pieces,"
which I still don't do all the time. But so
I mean, even this week, I mean, really, news went on a decent amount of time, and we only. You only
like
had
4 or 5, like 8 articles or 7 articles or something.
Yeah, so that's not even that much.
Yeah. So the thing is, Moodz, is I would never get rid of the news. That's not what I was proposing here. But I would like to ask the listeners. There's a way to.
Yeah, this whole conversation was leading up to a question. There's a point to this, people. Yeah. We're not just talking back and forth and forgetting that we're doing a show.
Now, one of the things, I swear to fucking God, if you people are listening to this show, and I'm kind of pissed off right now, if you people are listening to this show, you people, the listeners, the people that listen, the hundreds of people that listen to the show, if I ask a question, can you please give us some feedback? Because I'm so tired of asking things, and then we get like 4 responses. Like, it drives me crazy, because like, I know some people are, because I do this too. Like, I'll listen to a show and they'll ask for feedback, and I don't even know where I would leave it. Like, I don't even listen. I've literally, the shows that I listen to, I've never like commented on. It's kind of weird. So I wonder how many people actually do that with us.
I think it's just people in general these days. Like, I had a question today on the Reds. I think it was on the Redson. He's like, where are the links to download the last week's episode? And I was like, dude, just press the description Dropbox and all the links come down. And he's like, he got back to me later. He's like, awesome, man, I found the links. So I'm like, I hope you did, man.
They're there every week. They've been there since the dawn of the show.
Like, no, if you're listening,
no, obviously. Some people honestly are not. They don't know. They don't use.
No, literally,
you know what I mean?
Some people just don't know that's a Dropbox.
Yeah.
Like what they're reading there, if it cuts off or whatever, they're like, okay, that's it. But no, there's like a whole list of links in there. So,
Yeah, but so back to my question here, guys. Like, please give us feedback because this is like a big deal right now to me. Like, I want to know. You could like one of the things that we could do is we could create a show, our weekly show, without the news and DVD releases, and it would be like the intro, voicemails, maybe a little bit more of what we watch than we normally do, and then the featured reviews. And the show would probably be like 2.5 hours long.
Come on, people. We're not asking for money here. Just write some words.
Yeah. And along with that, there could be another podcast in the same feed, and it would be like 22 Shots News or something like that. And it would just be the news and the releases. So it would be two separate shows that we would record it. We would just essentially what we'd be doing is just chopping the show in two pieces. And then if you could hear the weekly news, but then the future people who wanted to listen to the show, the episodes wouldn't have that dated quality. But then the problem comes, it's like, well, I don't want to download two different shows because I like just having all of it in one thing. I know Moodz is very against splitting things up like series and franchises and stuff. He doesn't really like doing that. So I know that some people definitely would not like it, but I just want to know how many people would not like it, because at the end of the day, whatever majority wants is what we do. So, and don't look at this as like, I don't want change, because like that's stupid. Just look at it at like what would you like better, without having the like bias, like I don't want the show to change type thing, where it's like you really don't care about what's happening, you just don't like change, because people do that too.
Yep, that's true.
So just honestly, what would you like? The way that I picture it is similar to how Banana Laser did theirs. They had the regular show, Banana Laser, episode 10, 11, 12. And then they had their show called Banana Bits, which was the news and releases. It's like the same thing, actually. It would be the exact same thing. And, that could actually technically...
They should have called it Banana
Shots.
Split. Like the dessert, Banana Split, because they're literally splitting the show.
Yeah, I mean...
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, that's cool, man.
The banana splits, yeah. So... It could be like that. I mean, that could be mini shots. It could be its own thing. But essentially, we would still be recording the show like we are now with the news and everything, but we just put it in a separate episode, or it would just be titled different, and you'd have to download it individually. I don't know if we'd make it have its own feed or if it would stay in our feed, but it's just something that I figured I would throw out there and let you guys decide. Because I'm cool with whatever. At the end of the day, I'm still going to have to get the news, and we're still going to record the news segment. It's just, do you want it to stay part of the episode, or would you like it to be its own thing? So,
feedback, man. Write those words. Lots of curse words in there too. That's fine. That's fine also. I like reading those. It's good.
But yeah, that's a very long-winded question.
Yeah, very long-winded question. Where are we right now? Are we still in Mood Swings? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, that was the voicemails.
Still in voicemails, yeah. So no, actually, we could technically call that listener feedback right there.
Yeah, voicemails / listener feedback.
Listener feedback, yeah. So again, people, just leave some responses. Any type of feedback is great. Positive, negative, it's all. Don't worry, we're not getting butthurt
guys,
over it.
You do realize whenever
you
guys
have suggestions, except for Zach, you're not allowed to comment on this because I already know where it's going with him. I'm just joking. But
whenever we post the episode, like our excitement level to keep doing the show literally comes from how many comments and feedback we get. Like that's where the majority of my excitement comes from. So like some of you guys just be slacking, honestly. Some of you guys just don't tell us anything, and I want you guys to.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
And hell, if you don't feel like typing anything, don't type anything. I'm just fucking around.
Yeah, man, there's lots of places to leave it too, man. Just do it up. All right. So let's move along. Do we have a knowledge segment this week?
Yeah, I got something briefly that I would like to touch on in knowledge. It's It's not very long. It's just something that was on my mind today. So, I don't know if you watch my YouTube videos, but
I actually did, and I was actually gonna even say, I'm gonna give you a little bit of an applause right now.
why?
Because you put out like more than one or two in like the last 2 months. Doing a good job, man.
Yeah.
My feed looks busy with Double Shot J videos right now. I watched your update. And like you're doing your series, your 365-day series. Yeah, you've been quite active on there. I have to give you a hands.
Thanks.
For that
Thank you.
right there.
Yeah, so
job.
one of the things that I started doing on my YouTube channel probably I don't know, a good 3 months ago or something, maybe 4, is I started doing an intro with like, just something simple, music, where like, and titles like, this like week 3 of my 365-day movie challenge, blah blah. And I did that because I kind of wanted an intro, but I don't know. I didn't want to like make video. I didn't want to like cut down videos like you do, Moodz. Like I didn't feel like doing all that. I just wanted one that I could plug in anytime that I made a video. And so I was like, okay, I want music, but I don't want something that's going to get copyright strike, and I don't want to use like some lame ass public domain music. So I will try to find some like independent music and ask them if I could use their music. So I found this band called Harley Poe, and I really, really like them. Like they make like some very unique music. I put a lot of their songs in like the mini shots that we did last, and I've listened to like a lot. I've bought 2 of their albums on Amazon, and I reached out to John Whiteford, who is, I guess, the lead singer of Harley Poe. I was like, hey, I really like your music. I was wondering if I could use it in my videos, and I will, of course, give you a credit at the end of the video and in the description where people can buy your album. And he agreed, and he said, yeah, dude, definitely, that would be cool. So I was like, cool. Now I have like a legit like music for my videos that I have permission to use. And that was a cool goal that I set to do, and I accomplished it. And I know that there's even like a few people who actually asked me like what the song is, and I'm like, it's at the end of the video.
I get that all the time too, man.
And in the description. But
90% of questions asked in your comment section are answered at the end of your videos. Yeah. Like mine all the fucking time.
So basically, I have heard a few people say that they've now become like a fan of Harley Poe because of my videos, which I think is amazing and probably good for him. So
yeah, that's cool, man.
The only fucking issue with this goddamn bullshit is every time I upload a video, I get a copyright strike. Now, that's not the worst thing in the world with the way YouTube is now. They basically monetize your video, and the proceeds, the ad revenue that you get from your video will then just go to the owner of the copyrighted music. It's not like how it used to be where you get a copyright strike and like you get 3 of them and your channel shut down.
Yeah, they're just making money. They want you to do that shit, man.
Yeah, so the thing now is, though, I have permission to use it. So yeah. I have to dispute the copyright strike, and I say, hey, I have permission to use this. Like, here's, I got this email. And then it takes about 1 to like 30 days to go through. So every time I upload a video with that music in it, I get a copyright strike. So essentially, I have to upload videos, leave them unlisted until the copyright strike goes away, and then make them private. Which is brutal, fucking annoying because like all my videos are like really dated, and it made me like I had 4 videos that had copyright strikes on them that I was waiting to put on public. So I was just like, well, I'm not making any videos right now because like I have 4 to go. And then I got behind on my 365-day challenge because that one it took forever to get uncopyright striked. So it put me behind, and now I'm just like, you know what? It's not even worth it. I'm probably just going to axe the intro, which I really fucking like that intro. Mm-hmm, so it pissed me off. Like, God damn it, there should be a way where it's like, I have permission to use this goddamn song. Can you give me a permanent license for it?
Yeah, they need to get a new system in YouTube, man. I mean, if you have written permission, from the artists themselves, they should be able to notify YouTube and be like, hey,
Stop
he's cool to
flagging
use.
my videos.
He's cool to use this song. I give him permission, and then it's just a simple kind of email, whatever it is. Stop flagging the shit. Done.
I know.
How fucking hard is that, man? Why is this so hard to do? I just don't understand. If you have permission, you shouldn't be getting flagged. But it's like an automatic system, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah, because it's not actually Harley Poe or John Whiteford who's flagging it.
Yeah,
it's just.
I mean, you can flag people's videos for whatever, but this is obviously automatic, though. This is just
and one of the things also is the copyright. The copyright is coming from CD Baby, which I assume is a distributor that probably distributes the Harley Poe music. So it's not actually John Whiteford himself.
Yeah, CD Baby is like a website. Yeah, because maybe they produce stuff too. I'm not sure, but I know you can buy stuff on CD Baby. It's interesting.
Yeah, so that's actually where the strike is coming from. So
okay,
it's actually a third party, and that makes it even more annoying to get it taken care of. So I'm probably going to axe the intro.
Well, that sucks, man.
But I really liked it. So it's frustrating because I finally had something that I liked that I was okay, this intro is fitting. You heard the intro, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good. That's a good song, right?
No, I've heard it. I've heard it many times. I mean, I watch your videos, right? So I'm like you, but
I've watched a few years lately, so don't even talk.
Did you watch my update with my missed edit?
Nope.
Fucking great, man.
Your updates are too long to watch.
Dude, my update was the same length as yours, you dick.
Yeah, right.
It was
how long was mine? 15 minutes?
No, yours was 25. Mine was 34.
Huh. Yeah,
pretty much the fucking
that's not
same.
the same at all.
The fuck? That's exactly the same. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, man. But I made this really cool new intro, man. It's kind of like my old one, but I took out all the clips of myself because I hate seeing myself in those clips. And I just made the whole fucking intro just gore. See, that's pretty awesome.
So what did you, do you ever get flagged for the music you use?
No, I purposely beat around the bush. Well, this is what happened on Bodyweight, because I remember I was using a song for a long time on there, and then I all of a sudden kept getting flagged for it. I was like, what the fuck? That's so weird. So, and then that's how I started using my own songs. You remember when I did that cover, the Too Short song, Ain't Nothing But a Word to Me?
Yeah.
And then I used that in the intro for the longest time. That's why I started using that, and I was like, fuck this. I'm just going to figure out a way, I'll test out the waters. I made the intro and I uploaded it to YouTube on private, and I wanted to see if it got flagged for the music and stuff, and it didn't. And I was like, okay, so I threw in the video and it was good. I did that with the clip I threw into this update too. I found this clip from Andy Warhol. It's this fucking insane clip where this lady throws her baby out the window. It's fucking hilarious. And did the same thing. So I could just kind of test the waters of this shit, because honestly, I have tried to do the proper thing and try to contact, and I couldn't do it before. And I was like, I'm impatient. I don't have any patience for any of that shit. And so I was like, fuck it. I mean, I've even used my buddy Keel's music in my intros and stuff like that, his band's music. I even asked him, I was like, hey man, you cool if I use this? And he's like, yep. So, but with some of the other stuff, some of the Claudio Simonetti stuff is not copyrighted apparently, so I can use it. I've used Body Count. I've used many different theme songs to horror films. Night of the Demons, I've gotten away with that. Maybe it's the length of the clip. I don't know.
I think that has something to do with it.
But this one, the new intro is it's 34 seconds long, and I didn't get flagged, so I don't know. I really don't know. But I'm not picking anything super popular or anything, but it is what it is.
Yeah, so
annoying
that's
shit, man.
just
It
my
is annoying.
little rant on knowledge. It's just frustrating to me. It's sad. Makes me not want to make videos.
Well, I mean, maybe just go and find another track that you like and just test the waters, and maybe you won't get flagged on it. Who knows, man? I don't know.
I wish I was musically inclined. I'd make my own. So, Moodz. Something happened last week that I totally missed. So, Kyle was reviewing Gun Woman, and I was like, oh yeah, we both reviewed that on our top 10 of 2015 show.
15,
and I failed to realize that I gave it a 9, you gave it a 10, and then Kyle gave it a 9. You know what that means?
That means that is a score of 28 and an entry into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, totally forgot. Didn't even put it together. Derek actually pointed that out. Thanks, Derek. And we would like
fans.
We would just we would just like to use this little moment to induct Gunwoman into the Hall of Fame. That is now, shoot, how many members do we have? We have 5, 10. Now we have 15 members of the Hall of Fame.
15.
So with a combined rating of 28 points, 10 from Moodz, 9 from me, and 9 from Kyle, that becomes our 15th entry. So we have The Battery, Halloween Remake, Sleep Tight, Rosemary's Baby, Night of the Living Dead, Jaws, The Phantom's Carriage, Cemetery Man, Angst, Blood and Black Lace, It Follows, Bone Tomahawk, May, and
Gunwoman.
Correct.
I'm still a little like with Bone Tomahawk. I'm like, because I'm not part of that rating.
Well, I'm not part of May.
Oh, there you go. Look at that. The hosts aren't even part of 2 of the inductees. What the fuck?
Now, if somehow it happens where both of us are not part of one, then something's up.
That would be fucked up.
All right. Yeah. So, Gunwoman in the Hall of Fame.
Congratulations, Gunwoman. Well deserved. I love that movie.
Miss Gunwoman. To Sam Kaka. Her name is.
Who actually, listened to the year-end episode too, which is very, very cool.
Yep.
Commented back. Yeah.
All right, so let's move on. Morbid fact of the day, of the week.
Yeah, which is my line. So moving along, Rue Morgue. Alrighty, so here it is. Coroner's report. Okay, this one actually kind of made me laugh. Pretty funny stuff. The student who is knocked unconscious by the fire hose in the school gym during the prom scene in 1976's Carrie was actually knocked out by the pressure during the film scene.
Wait, what?
He was literally knocked out in that scene for real.
Damn.
So
I remember.
So in the script, he's supposed to get knocked out by the hose.
The water, right?
By the water, but he literally got knocked out from the pressure during the scene's filming. Like it fucking just bolted him over and he got it knocked out.
Yeah.
So could you just imagine him telling this story? It's like, like some people are like, oh man, you did a good job in that scene, man. Very well acted. You actually look like you're knocked out. And he's like playing it off for years. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, yeah, I did do a good job, didn't I? And then all of a sudden the truth comes out in Rue Morgue. He actually got knocked out for real. Fucking liar.
Yeah, dude, I had my mom's ex-boyfriend, his sister, their house caught on fire before, and she walked right in front of a fire hose and had the gnarliest black eye I've ever seen in my life.
Dude, those things have so much pressure. You can't be fucking walking that. Why do you think it takes like 6 firemen to hold those hoses, man? There's a reason for that shit.
Uh-huh.
I mean, because the hose will just go apeshit and it'll take out buildings, man. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Crazy shit, man. But I thought that was pretty funny. Like he literally got knocked out. Perfect. Scene shot perfectly. Definitely. All right, guys. So that is going to do it for Mood Swings. And moving on to the WW portion of the show, which we are not going to go round tree. We are just going to do some segments because we are, of course, covering the Basket Case trilogy. So we got segments this week, JP.
Yeah, you go first this week, bud.
Okay. Taking it all the way back to 1979 with a film directed by a guy named Mario Garzola. Of course, my Italian stallion. And I don't really know much about this guy at all. And I didn't really know much about the film also. All I knew is that it was released by Raro Video on Blu-ray. And I knew I had to pick it up because I love Raro Video's releases. And the only thing I'd heard from this film is it was ultra sleazy. So I was like, okay, got to check this one out. And it's called Play Motel from 1979. basically what this film is, it's kind of like a hybrid film in a sense. It's more of like a sexploitation film and with giallo elements. So it's kind of like this giallo sexploitation film in a sense, if that makes any sense. I know a lot of giallos have that element of sexploitation in there, but this one is kind of elevated because there's a lot of sex in the film. It's a very simple premise. It's basically about these people that go to this motel, this play motel, and what it is, it's got these really fancy, kind of hybrid hookers that are in this place, and what they do is these fancy high class guys, they go in there and they get rooms and they fuck these girls. But what's going on in the hotel is that there's some dude behind this mirror and he's taking pictures of what's going on with these clients. And, he's kind of given the film to, the guy that's working the counter and stuff like that. And they're using the pictures to blackmail these, these big playboys and get some money out of them and stuff. So it's essentially what the story is in the film. Of course, where the giallo aspects come in. So certain people start getting blackmailed in this film, and some other girls and people start to kind of look into it. They start to investigate. Anyways, they start getting killed off by this this unknown assailant wearing black gloves and the POV type giallo stuff. And so these people start disappearing and things like that. And then you got your story. Now my thoughts on this film. Now this is a really, really sleazy film. It is insanely sleazy, man. Wow. Okay, right off the hop, of course, the whole storyline having to do with playboys and these high class hookers and stuff like that. There's gonna be a lot of sex, but this one is just like exploitation at its best. There's nonstop sex, lots of tits, lots of muff. There's even hardcore shots in this film. You can actually watch in the special features, there's about 7-8 minutes of hardcore footage that they'd filmed for the film that they never put into it, but you can watch it. I was actually kind of curious on why Raro didn't actually put two versions of the film on one Blu-ray, kind of insert the hardcore scenes, but they didn't do it. But anyways, you can watch those separately. But yeah, this one right here, man, totally full of amazing, amazing, beautiful women. So much tits and muff and ass is just insane. Mixed in with this amazing soundtrack. This movie has one of the catchiest theme songs I've heard in a giallo sexploitation film in a long time. Now, the thing with this film is that it's more sexploitation than giallo. It's not really much of a thriller, per se, because the elements of thriller and giallo they're there. They're just not as existent as the sexploitation of portion of the film. With that said, there's a lot of police investigation and things that are going on in this one, but there's just not a lot of like tense moments and a lot of body count, and which is kind of a shame because there's a lot of opportunity in this film to have a lot of body count. It starts out where a few people get killed, and then there's just a lot of police investigation. Like there's a couple, this beautiful woman in this film and her boyfriend, they get involved in this police investigation and they kind of infiltrate and they kind of break the whole thing and things like that. And so you got kind of this all going on, which brings me into the narrative of the film is kind of all over the place. It really is all over the place. It's kind of it's a really weird film. You can tell that scenes were filmed just to have in the film. So they were kind of focusing more on the skin aspect of the film, kind of making it more of a sexploitation. The narrative is just it's bonkers. It really is bonkers. And it's not really well executed either, because you kind of know who the killer is of the film right in the beginning of the movie, which is kind of a shame. So kind of downplays the giallo elements and the aspect of the film right there. But overall, man, this one right here is such a fun watch. I had just an amazing time watching this thing, man. I'm telling you, right from the open, like right when you pop in this Blu-ray and the menu comes up, it has this Play Motel song, and it's just amazingly catchy. Well, they play this thing probably 10, 12 times throughout the film. So catchy, awesome. The other really weird element of this movie that I thought was interesting to note is the tone of it. Now, when I was first, the first 15, 20 minutes of the film, I thought it was going to be like a serious giallo, sexploitation, thriller type film. And it appears that it is, but there's a lot of like kind of undertone black comedy moments and things like that are going on, mixed in with this kind of very odd and strange score. And so I started to realize, I was like, man, this movie isn't overly that serious. So you can tell the filmmaker wasn't trying to take the story, the little story that he had, too serious, which is very cool because it added this element for the viewer that was so surprising to me, because like I said, I was expecting it to be serious, but it wasn't. And some of the comedic moments were actually translating quite well. I was laughing in parts pretty fucking hard, actually. And it's not even silly at all. They're very kind of low key and kind of subtle, which I really liked about the film. I thought it was fantastic. The ending, third act, is really ridiculous. So much fun. But I just couldn't help laugh just the way it goes down. It was just really, really good stuff. But I do recommend Play Motel. It's not a fantastic narrative. If you're looking for something like, a really solid giallo, like The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, or Deep Red, or any of those really classic Bavas, like Blood and Black Lace, and so on and things like that, you're not going to find that. This one's a kind of a different film, like I said, the hybrid type. But if you're looking for lots of awesome looking women, tits and muff, yeah, and I'm talking major bushes in this, even with some hardcore moments, even in this version too. There's some open vag in this, man. I'm not gonna lie, pretty cool stuff, mixed in with a great soundtrack. Check out Play Motel. Really enjoyed this film. I was surprised at how much I was digging this. I've been kind of on a sleaze kick right now, so maybe I'm not trying to say that I'm being biased, but I really fucking enjoyed this movie. It's not great, so I'm kind of got to factor in all that type of stuff, but I'm gonna give it about a 7 out of 10. It's definitely worth the watch. Check it out. Fun stuff, man. Really, really fun stuff.
There's some open vag in it, I'm not gonna lie.
Well, it was funny because the reason why I did note that is because, like I said in the special features, you can watch the hardcore footage, and I was surprised to see some open vag in the film. Considering they shot these hardcore scenes, to insert, haha, pun intended, and yeah, it's really good. But man, dude, I can't get over the way the women looked in this film. Some of the women in this film are just gorgeous, and they didn't even look like, some of the styles and stuff looked really good. Like, you see people wearing even the hairdos now, because I know like every style is kind of back right now, but yeah, it just kind of, I don't know, it didn't seem that dated. I mean, there's things that are dated, obviously, but yeah, fun film, man. Check it out, people. Play Motel if you're into your sleaze. Good stuff.
All right, man. That's something. That's one of those titles that I'll never remember,
Yeah.
Okay, so the film for my segment, which is Horror 101 this week, on that documentary kick again. This is where I review a documentary, either like movie related or just sort of, in this case, sci-fi related, even though it's kind of scary too. We are reviewing Alien Autopsy, Fact or Fiction, from the year 1995. And this film I actually picked up on VHS at a Goodwill the other day. And I was just really curious about it because it was only like an hour long, and I was like, okay, I was hoping that this was not on DVD, because then it would be something cool like to find, But unfortunately, it actually is on DVD, which kind of bummed me out. But I did watch it on VHS, and this is I think that's how you should watch something like this. So a little background on this film. It was made in 1995, and it aired on Fox as sort of a big deal at the time. Like, you probably remember this, but it is sort of, I guess, the idea behind it is they have footage from Roswell, New Mexico in 1947, when the UFO crash happened, and then the footage is they found the footage essentially of the alien autopsy, and basically the documentary shows pieces of the footage, and then it has experts talk about the footage. Mm-hmm. Everybody from camera experts to military journalists who recorded things for the military in World War II era and different eras, so they have like an insight on what this footage would kind of look like. Camera experts who look at the film itself and talk about what kind of camera it was used in. Also the Stan Winston. He talks about whether he thinks it's fake or not, because, you know, if it's fake, then it would be a special effect that was recorded with an old ass camera, and, you know, a special effects artist would probably be able to tell that it's fake. So really cool, you know, because the footage, honestly, like, it looks decent. Like, I think it looks fake as fuck. But
Yeah.
that's just because I know that it's fake as fuck. I feel like if I didn't know that it was fake as fuck, then then it wouldn't look fake as fuck. So it looks
That's
good.
That's 4 times.
It looks good, but it doesn't look good because I know it's fake as fuck, is what I'm trying to say. Now, like, it's a really cool little hour-long thing because they, like, you can tell it's biased as fuck as well. like the people presenting it obviously want you to think that it's real because it aired on Fox and prime time in 95, and it actually aired one more time after that. But it also starts out with a little backstory. Like, there's a woman who talks that her dad was part of the crash site when it happened, and she touched this metal that, like, when you touched it, it like disintegrated practically into, like, it just got smaller and smaller and smaller, and you couldn't feel it, and then when you let it go, it would expand. And it, like, that was cool because I'm like, okay, like, I feel like they're, you know, the whole alien thing, like I feel like there's some probably truth to it and a lot of bullshit to it. Definitely I could believe that there's some weird shit, you know, whether it's you know, from another world or it's just government made or whatever, like another country made it. Like, I'm sure there's some weird shit that's happened over the years, especially during the 50s in Roswell. So it is interesting hearing that, and seeing it on a grainy VHS makes it kind of creepy. I did do some backstory on this because I was like, I knew about that footage. I've seen that footage before, the footage that they show in the film, but it's like 22 minutes of footage that they show throughout, like different pieces of it. And it's an autopsy. Like, they cut the alien's skull and slit it down its side and stuff and pull out brains and shit. And I knew the footage is fake because I remember seeing the footage, and I know that the guy who sold the footage to the producers at Fox eventually came out in like 2006 and said that it was fake. But he's seen real footage and he recreated this footage because the real footage was like damaged.
Really?
So I already knew that it was fake going into this once I started seeing the footage because I knew that I knew the footage. But it does look good. Like, I mean, if this was 1995 and I seen that, I'd be like probably 100% convinced that it was real. And the Stan Winston and his whole crew of effects guys were kind of blown away with it. They were like, man, you know, if this is fake, this is a really good job, because if we did this, we would be hella proud of it. So it was weird. I don't know if they like told him to say that. I'd be curious to talk to whoever was there and be like, hey,
that is interesting
actually to say that, because like they were really kind of blown away with it. It seemed like they were convinced that it was real. Because it does look good. Like when they slice it down its side and stuff, like it's bleeding, like, and it bleeds like, like in a way, like, because they were talking about how it was hard. It's hard to make something bleed in that way where it looks natural.
Yeah.
So there was that, and like, you know, it was really, really neat to see. Like, I would have loved to see this on Fox back in '95, but it was cool to see in VHS on my little TV too. Like, I was actually really happy with this little pickup on VHS. Overall, you know, they don't really get you know, they don't get anywhere with it, obviously, and they're really biased and they want you to believe it. And apparently Fox, like, they because there's the person who I guess had the footage, the guy who recorded it back in '55, he was like trying to be anonymous, so they hired like private investigators, like, find him. And I guess when they were filming that portion of it, they were kind of getting the idea that, okay, this might be like fake as fuck, and they kind of decided to pump the brakes on that because they didn't want to find out that it was fake before it aired, because the 22-minute footage came to them from the guy who, you know, retrieved the footage, but later we found out he actually made it himself, and they made a documentary out of this footage, around this footage. So, I mean, it's a really cool concept, and like how it all came together is cool. But it's just, at the end of the day, it's fake as fuck, but it's still pretty entertaining. I give it a 7 out of 10. It's not bad, man. For an hour long, it's pretty cool. I liked it.
I think that was 7 times you said fake as fuck in there. It's not bad. It's not bad. I like that. might be the most you've ever cursed during a review. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, man. Man, I haven't seen it forever. I couldn't give a concrete opinion on it right now because I haven't seen it in a long time, but I would like to watch that again.
You've seen it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've seen it before.
Did you see it on Fox in 95?
I want to say I did, actually, because I think it was like a big event, you know?
Yeah, it was like a big deal, man. It did like 11.7 million viewers or some shit.
I probably did, man. It would have made sense. I would have been 15, right into that stuff. Like, oh, yeah.
I mean, I probably seen it too. I probably did because I was really into stuff like that even when I was like 4. You know what I mean?
You shouldn't be watching when you're 4, man.
Oh, dude, I was watching Friday the 13th when I was 2.
Damn, you old school, man.
Yeah, it was crazy. But no, seriously, like, I love stuff like this. Like, I remember when Unsolved Mysteries used to do, like, the odd episode where they would do, like, aliens and shit, and you'd be like, yeah, you'd hear that music and shit. It's scary.
I can't even fucking click on my goddamn Body Bags reviews because I use the theme music for it. It still scares me, man. This shit's terrifying. It's probably, like, the best theme music ever for a TV show.
X-Files is pretty good, too.
I think Unsolved Mysteries is like untouchable. It's so creepy, man. So well done.
But you remember that when every once in a while they'd break from like actual real things and like do like aliens or ghosts?
Yeah. I remember that shit.
Yeah, I used to love that, man. I heard the Unsolved Mysteries is trying to come back. There's like a Kickstarter or something.
Really? You know, it's just not the same though, man, because didn't they have like another guy doing it there for years that wasn't Robert Stack?
Oh, I think Robert Stack was trying to do it again. Is he still alive?
No, Robert Stack's dead.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, and that was the thing. I think there was another one, and I think there was another guy doing it. I'd never seen it before. I never seen any episodes that wasn't Robert Stack, so just not sure.
Yep. So that's my segment, guys.
All right, so that is going to do it for the WWW portion. Segment time here this week on episode 77. Alrighty, so getting into, part 1 of the Frank Hennenlotter director spotlight.
Also known as the Basket Case Trilogy episode.
Also known as the Basket Case Trilogy. Yes. Man. Honestly, I can't even believe we'd never thought of this earlier. We not think of this earlier. Basket Case, man. It's great.
Yeah, I know. I've actually, funny enough, I've reviewed Basket Case on a podcast before.
I know you have, actually. I thought about that when I was watching Basket Case, actually. So, yeah, man, Basket Case, good stuff. I don't really have like a whole lot of more notes about, notes that I can remember when I was watching the documentary and stuff. Except for, I know like one of the lead effects artists on Basket Case, I know he left it during the filming of the original film to go work on the film Wolfen. Which is kind of cool. And he'd worked on Altered States and things like that too. So, which Altered States is known for, like the effects are just fucking outstanding. That's what really sticks out about the film. So kind of a cool thing, but.
So Basket Case from 1982, written and directed by Frank Hennenlotter. This film follows a young man who journeys to the big city of New York carrying a big wicker basket. We find out fairly later into the film that it's actually his deformed Siamese twin brother, Belial, who seeks revenge on the doctors who separated them against their will. So, right away, man, I gotta say that I have like the biggest obsession with dirty 80s, 70s New York City.
Well, you know what you're seeing in the first scene, right? That was
42nd Street or something.
That's 42nd Street. That's the original. You know, that's Broadway basically. Times Square type deal. It's just not the same anymore. Filmed obviously guerrilla style. You know, walking down 42nd Street in 19. I guess this probably would have been filmed in 1981 when they filmed that scene. Very, very awesome. Love that scene. It just sets the tone for the film. It's just
just the whole sex, live nude girls, you know, porn. Just
it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing, really, because you see that scene and it's not very long. Like you see Dwayne walking down the street with Blyle in the basket, and it's very short. It's only maybe 15 seconds long, kind of thing, but it captures so much of that time period, and it's just like, oh, I wish I was alive. I mean, I was alive, but it was too. But I mean, I wish I could have experienced 42nd Street. It just looks so damn cool, and it's amazing how such a short clip can capture so much.
Yeah, and you know,
Brilliant.
you hear the people talking, you hear the cars and the sounds. Like it just instantly sets the tone for the film for me. Not only the tone for the film that we're about to watch, but the style of film that it is, which is this super low budget, like $30,000 B movie that is filmed guerrilla style and made specifically to play in these sort of like grindhouse theaters.
Yeah, and you know, and that's a good note too, because Frank Hennenlotter grew up watching films on 42nd Street, and you know, he'd done a couple short films before this and stuff, and that was the idea. You know, he was like making this film, and he kept thinking, no one's ever going to see this shit, and he even the film showing on 42nd Street was like a big deal to him. You know, it was just like crazy stuff. Like he was just fucking blown away that, you know, where he grew up watching all these films, his film was being showed there, and he's like, it was like the world to him. So, but it makes sense. You film a film on 42nd Street, might as well show it on 42nd Street, right? It just has that. I love the look of this film. It looks so fantastic. I mean, one thing that a lot of people would probably never take away from watching the Basket Case trilogy is Frank Hennenlotter's ability to have amazing cinematography. Like the guy he shoots really well scenes. The way he shoots scenes and the way he edits scenes. I mean, even in Basket Case, I mean, throughout this movie, he does a lot of really good editing and a lot of good cinematography work. It's probably something you just wouldn't, you know, consider when you're watching Basket Case going, yeah, that's really good. That's really good. But, you know, he was still a very young filmmaker trying to make the stupidest film ever. You have to keep that in mind, you know, but at the same time, you can tell Frank Hennenlotter was taking this shit very serious, because apparently it's kind of a pain in the ass to work with. He's very serious on the set, but he's making this ridiculous film. And that's what I like about his film. And it really shows on the screen. He's got this really ridiculous idea, which essentially is like a revenge film, you know, in a sense.
Straight out of EC Comics, really.
Yeah, this movie is it's a revenge film. You've got these twin brothers that have been separated at birth. One is obviously majorly deformed, who are from upstate New York, who come down to the big city to get revenge on this veterinarian that separated them, blah blah blah, you know, kind of thing, right? It's kind of funny, like how
it's like a Dr. Phibes type revenge.
Yeah, you know, it's what you actually have to think about the revenge, you know, because you're just so focused on this amazing character and these effects of Blyle, you know, this whole idea of this like living Siamese twin that was attached to, you know, this brother. And so I love that whole aspect. I think it's so cool how it just kind of takes away and you take the film for what it is. And it has this tone. The tone of the film it's really what are your thoughts on the tone of the film? I think the look of it's awesome. The tone, I love it because it's like serious, but at times it's not, you know, and it has this.
I honestly don't even think it's very much not serious. Like I feel like it's pretty much played straight face through the film.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, there's obviously dark humor in there, and there's comedic elements with things. It's mostly in the dialogue. Like there's a scene in the film where Dwayne checks into the hotel and he pulls out this gangster wad of like 50s and 20s. Who it never explained why he has all this fucking money. I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
And but you know, and the one guy is totally eyeing up the money. Anyways, he goes up the stairs carrying Blyle, and the one guy goes, man, he's loaded. And the guy that's running the fucking the hotel goes, so are you.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a line that you could see a guy like that making.
Exactly, but it makes me laugh every time I hear that. But like, it just doesn't take away from like the honest to God serious tone of this ridiculous premise.
Yeah,
It's amazing how he
I
captured
love
this.
when he walks into the hotel and the manager, like, I love that character. Like, I feel like this is a film where, and might sound crazy, but I honestly feel like you can dissect this film scene by scene and point out like why like that's good.
Yeah.
Like why this works and why that works, because I really do think that this is a fantastic movie of just this low budget proportion that really excels beyond anything that it should be. It's way better than it deserves to be.
It makes a lot of sense because Frank Hennenlotter is a huge film. He loves movies, not just horror films, exploitation. He likes film. So you can tell that he had studied and really took notes while watching films and like what to do and what not to do and things like that, because it shows up in this film that he made for $35,000 that essentially looks a lot bigger than it definitely cost. You know, it's really cool. Like, I mean, the actors and things like, I mean, Dwayne was taken from, I think he was taken from an acting school. Like he was still in school at the time.
I think so too.
Right. And so that's kind of cool. And like, just kind of did it like that and was taking chances on these people, you know, technically. And just the aesthetics of this film is just, it's crazy, man. It really is. It shows that someone who'd done a couple short films before had a lot of fucking talent.
Yeah, I was actually really impressed with Kevin Henterick's performance as Dwayne. He has this like sort of dopey quality to him, but he seems like genuinely like a nice guy, and he's just kind of like doing shit for his brother. And he, like, the girl that he meets, it's kind of an interesting little relationship there too, because she's like kind of a little bit of an oddball as well. And he obviously is like way over his head in terms of like the world. Like the world's just a couple steps ahead of him. He you know, he does stuff that like he pulls out a big wad of money when like any normal person knows like you don't do that, especially in like the middle of New York.
I love that scene because, you know, that showcases, his mentality is still upstate New York in the small town. In the small town, you can get away with pulling out a gangster wad, and no one's going to really look twice at it. Like, oh, that guy's got fucking, you know, $100 on him, or not $100, like $1,000 on him. In the big city, he's not thinking about it. He's a super naive character, is what it is.
Yeah, he's very naive, and I think also, you know, obviously he just assumes that people are not douchebags in life.
Which is so ironic, though, when you think about it. The irony there is insane because he's like on 42nd Street, like the dungiest and gross area. Probably the area that the one area you really don't want to be. You know, you're going to get jacked in a second.
Like you look around and you see like just, I love looking, especially on the Blu-ray that I have is the Something Weird video Blu-ray. And I think it looks really good, especially when you look at like the, you know, pop bottles and beer cans and just different like brown bags like laying all over like just the hallways. Like it's just normal to them. Like they're like, and that's actually like how it looked. Like it's crazy how different it is now compared to what it was like back then.
Well, I've been there, you know, since it's like, you know, new age fucking, you know, Times Square, Broadway, whatever. It's nothing. It's not the same, man. I could just imagine how cool it was, you know, back in those days. It's not the same.
I mean, the dirt in this film, like you feel like you can wipe it off the screen. One of the things that I wanted to say about the Blu-ray Moodz is I'm not sure if the Blu-ray that you have, which is the UK release, has the introduction by Frank Hennenlotter.
I don't think it does. No.
Okay. So I was wondering if it's the same transfer, because Frank Hennenlotter does an introduction on this Blu-ray, and it actually is about 3 minutes long, and it's really good. He really explains exactly what he was looking for when doing this transfer, because he was, you know, he did it himself. Like he was a supervisor of the transfer. Yeah. And he said one of the things that they did when they filmed the basket case was he didn't really know what he was doing. He just had a camera and he pointed it at square and he just shot things, not knowing that, you know, I believe he shot it on 16 millimeter. You got to blow it up to 35. And then everything, he said they thought about blowing it up to 35 for this release, and he did, and everything was just too congested and too close up, so they decided to leave it the way that it is. But one thing that he said that was interesting, and I was curious about the transfer that you have, because he said that originally when they shot the film, it had a blue tint on all the night scenes. And he said for some reason they got rid of that tint when they made all their prints and subsequent releases of the film that went out all over the world, and you know, the different prints that they had and DVD releases and stuff, and that tint was not there. So he said one thing when he did the Blu-rays, he wanted to bring the blue tint back. So it definitely has a blue tint to it, and I was just curious if yours did or not.
It definitely has it in, you know, in the end scenes for sure. I mean, it wasn't as prevalent as watching something like Madman.
Yeah.
It's something I didn't really notice too much. But I wanted to ask you: is your what aspect ratio is your Blu-ray in? The something weird. Is it in full screen?
What, I don't know what the difference is.
Like full screen.
It has bars on the sides.
Yeah, that's full screen.
Okay.
Yeah. So it probably is the same transfer. Yeah, the transfer looks really good. It looks really good.
Yeah.
You know, for that film, and I was like, I mean, compared to 2 and 3, which are in anamorphic
It
widescreen.
is 1.781 by 1 or something.
Interesting. Yeah, 2 and 3 are just, I have to say, man, the Blu-rays, which haven't been released
Oh,
yet.
no, it's 1.33 by 1.
Okay.
I don't know what any of that means.
But yeah, the Blu-ray transfers for 2 and 3 are in, you know, full screen, whatever, or I mean in widescreen, and they are phenomenal. They look pristine, like the films were just shot yesterday. Like, it's so crazy. So crazy, man. Like, you know, I mean, they had more money when they shot 2 and 3, but fuck, I was blown away when I popped these things in again. I was like, holy shit, man. Crazy. I mean, I know the Snaps DVDs look pretty good. Holy fuck. These transfers are just outstanding. Really, really good. Just blew my mind watching it again. So.
One of the things that I really appreciate about the first Basket Case film is they actually leave Belial in the dark for a long time. Like you as an audience, if you didn't see the cover of the film and know about it or see a trailer or anything, like, you wouldn't know exactly what the hell was in the basket, because everybody keeps asking what's in the basket. He's like, oh, clothes.
Yep.
You know, and I find that it's effective to keep it in the dark for a little while and then finally let it go. Also, I mean, dude, when you watch this movie, and, like, for example, when he goes to kill the first doctor and he goes to that waiting room and he goes in the doctor's office, it is just disgusting. Like, that is not where I want to go to seek medical attention.
Oh, I know, man. That doctor is such a dirtbag too, right?
And there's, like, files everywhere, and, like, filing cabinet's got filing cabinet upon filing cabinet on top of it.
He captures it well, though, because the first scene, or the first shot you see of the doctor, he's eating, like, this fucking downright greasy burger, and it fits the surrounding.
Like, half of it in his mouth, like, he pushes it in with one finger, and he's just like,
no, I know,
cheeks are all puffed out.
I love it. And then he wipes his hands, like, on his shirt, I think, and then he kind of cleans off the table and just goes. Doesn't, like, actually wash his hands or nothing. This is like, it adds to, like, the whole feel of that room. It's just dirty, you know. It's great. It's totally great. But I like how you first, you know, get to see Belial, man. I love that scene, man. It's great. It's great stuff.
Yeah. And, you know, the story is kind of simple, and, you know, we've seen it done in time and time again since then, but at the time, I think it was, you know, pretty decently crafted, honestly. And, you know, I've heard people say this is like one of the so bad it's good movies. I 100% disagree. I don't think you can really say that this is a bad movie, because I don't think that it is. I really genuinely think this is a well done, well crafted, well told story of revenge. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of, you know, wonky shit here and there, like there is in most movies that are this low budget.
There's absolutely no way this movie falls into the so bad it's good category. That completely is a bullshit quote. Why, whoever said that? That's garbage, man. I think there's a lot of talent here. You know, Frank Hennenlotter might be downplaying himself. You know, I didn't know what I was doing, blah, blah, blah. But you can obviously tell that there's something there, because even in the editing, the way he shot this film and a lot of the angles used and stuff, for the budget he had, maybe he's just really good with money. I don't know. But he did a really good job. It's very convincing that someone of, you know, who only made a couple short films before, you know, shot this film, it looked like someone knew what they were doing.
He did really good casting all around with, you know, like the chick who's like the neighbor tenant who is, it honestly feels more like an apartment than a hotel, but
you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of those films where, some actor moves from a small town into, into California, into, to Los Angeles or whatever, and moves into like, it's kind of like Melrose Place in a way. That's what that hotel reminded me of. Basically what those apartments were, is that all these actors would always live in these places, and they'd be just renting rooms for like long periods of time, because they were trying to make it in the business. And that's kind of what that felt like to me, because these characters were there the whole time. They were never going anywhere. So they were essentially living in there. I don't know what their motives were in life, but it kind of reminded me of those films set in Los Angeles where they're just living in these apartments, kind of like Starry Eyes in a way.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of like that. That's really what it reminded me of. So.
Yeah, definitely. And, I thought the casting with her was decent. I think her name is like Beverly something. Beverly Bonner, I believe her name is, the actress. She's in actually a lot of Frank Hennenlotter's films. She plays the character Casey. I really liked her. And the girl, Terry Smith, played Sharon, the love interest. This is actually her only film that she's ever been in. And she has this glowing vibe to her. She just has this, like, she glows. Did you notice that?
Yeah, it's kind of a cutie.
Yeah, like she just had like something with her eyes and stuff. She's just very commanding. And, so Dwayne kind of gets a little love interest going with her, and his brother and him speak telepathically, which I thought was kind of an interesting, but I don't think necessary.
But I actually disagree. I think it is it's necessary to note, because there's been a lot of studies on twins and their telepathic ways and their ESP and stuff like that, like their extra sensory perception, I think is what it stands for. Apparently it's like a real thing with twins, and just being them that they're Siamese twins, they have like an extra bond, so once they're separated, it kind of makes sense to note that they might have this telepathic relationship or ESP relationship or whatever. He doesn't dwell on it a shitload. It's there, quite prevalent, because Dwayne is talking to Belial and arguing with him and doing things and stuff like that. But I think it is worthy of noting that it is. I think it's necessary to have it there. Makes sense. To me.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily. It feels like more of an afterthought to me. Like it feels like it was just kind of stuffed in there to like link.
This is like
things.
A real study. Like they study this shit for like ever and ever, and like even twins themselves. Like if you ever watched any of those things on like it's pretty interesting, man. How they. I remember watching this one case where these twins had moved apart. I'm just
talking about in the story, like how it was utilized. I'm not really talking about whether it has like significance in like.
No. It's not. I think it's just relevant to the film. It kind of makes sense because they're Siamese twins. They get separated, and just having it gives it kind of an excuse to have Dwayne talking to him and conversating and fighting with Belial and for all those necessary
that's my
scenes.
issue though, because like he talks out loud to him, like in most of the scenes. And
that makes a lot of sense because if you're fighting with someone that couldn't really talk, you're probably going to be shouting back. I couldn't keep it in. Could you? If you're getting pissed, if he's like saying some shit in your head, he's like,
he's not
like,
doing
Dwayne,
it.
He's like, fuck you, Dwayne. I wanted like.
He's not doing that. That's not. He talks to him. He doesn't really get pissed at him till the end of the film. You know what I mean? He's like talking to him about hamburgers and stuff. I'm not saying that it's like a big deal or anything. I'm just saying that like.
Oh, I got no problem. I love it, man. I think it makes perfect sense, man. I think it makes, and it's quite prevalent.
I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense. It definitely makes sense. I'm just saying that the way they utilized it in the film, it just felt like an afterthought. Like it wasn't like it was just a mention type thing. And really? I don't know. I just don't.
It doesn't feel like that to me at all, man. To be honest, but it really does show, and it's kind of a nice setup to introduce that in the first film for the second and third film to what happens. Because they are separated at points, and he's like, oh, I feel them. Things that are going on. There's a really funny sex scene that he feels, and I think it works. I think it totally works. It just makes sense to me, anyways. So which works, it's not a bad thing. But
so the only other, and it's not only in this one, but One of the only other like sort of little nitpick complaints that I have is this one feels like the ending was also just sort of like hurried along, like it was just
Yeah, but you know what, man? A lot of things in this movie are due to budget constraints completely. I mean, if you notice, like, well, I mean, Belial is basically made up of like a Coke bottle and a bunch of like rubber and shit like that. It's like the cheapest design ever. Obviously, they used animatronics in like in the sequels and things like that, but.
Well, Frank Hennenlotter still has the original Belial.
That's so crazy. He even says it in the documentary that it's quite rotted now.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
But it kind of makes sense.
Does
but I think
that set have the special feature where he walks around New York and sort of Horror's Hallowed Grounds? Is it? That special feature is so cool, dude. I think it's like 20 minutes or something. I watched it the last time I watched Basket Case, but he walks around New York to all these different like this one place when they filmed there. It was like a like gay club or like BDSM club or something, and they filmed the bar scene in there. It was so neat. It's a really cool special feature. If it's on that Blu-ray, definitely watch it.
Yeah, I really only saw there's a long list of features, but I saw the documentary What's in the Basket and I was like, I need to watch that. So maybe it is on there. I'm not 100% sure. So
yeah, that's a really cool special feature. It has Belial. He shows off the little Belial thing that's still around. It's kind of a little rotted now, but it's still looks relatively the same.
Yeah, I truly think that Frank Hennenlotter wanted a little bit more effect scenes and gore scenes and things like that in the film. But the budget just didn't allow that to happen, and maybe that's what happened with the end of the film too. He never said anything in the documentary about exactly why the ending was like that and the way it went down and things like that. But who knows? It probably has a lot to do with budget because a lot of things were done. I mean, the whole film was based on budget because they were filming and they didn't even have the money. It's really crazy. So
yeah, I mean, obviously, like you can point to budget for every flaw in the film, but I'm just saying, like, the way that the ending
I'm only using that as an excuse because, or not as an excuse because he did state that they were shooting as they were collecting money, right? So you never know what's going to come next, right? If you might not get any more money, so that isn't really
So you might want to think about start your ending a little earlier than just sort of like at the very end.
Yeah,
obviously the budget. Yeah, the budget was bad and stuff, and as he goes, he's filming as he goes and stuff. But I mean, they did that in Phantasm too, and there's a list of hundreds of films that have done that. I'm just saying, in this film, the ending, I'm not a huge fan of just the rushed nature of the ending. Like it's like you're just and it's not just this film though. So that I don't think that it's like the best excuse is the budget. Well, the other films do that too. The endings are poor.
Well, you know what, man? I wouldn't worry about not talking about the ending because all these films have like straight up continuity. So could probably go into spoiler territory here because we kind of have to.
Yeah. I just didn't say it because like I don't know. I just didn't.
Well, I mean,
there's really not much to say about the ending.
I mean, yeah, I know. I'm just talking about where part 2 picks up from.
Yeah.
Right. So you kind of have to. I mean, even part 3 recaps part 2. The first 10 or 15 minutes or whatever. So, I don't know. Yeah, you can always blame budget. And so I don't really have a lot of problems with it, man. To be honest, it just the whole film really does work for me. I don't know. There's so many things in this film that I find so intriguing. Like, even the scene where, when you first see Belial in the doctor's office when he attacks him and stuff, even the color of blood looks fantastic. Mm-hmm. It looks so damn good. Like, there's so many things in this film that look so good.
You know what I think looks really good is when you see young Dwayne and he has him attached to him. I thought that looked pretty good.
That's a cool scene, man, because they explain how they did it when they cut it open, and Frank didn't really know how exactly they were gonna use to have the effect, because obviously when you're separating two people, you're going to find some guts and things like that. Mm-hmm. So they had no money. They only had like $20 or something like that. It was crazy. And So they just went and bought some hamburger and some chicken livers and things like that, and just kind of all stuffed it up into that mold. So when they cut it, all kind of fell out. Like the pieces that were falling out, that was like hamburger hitting the ground. And I guess Frank put those ridiculous sound effects. And that's another thing I love about these films is Frank Hennenlotter's use of awesome sound effects. They're kind of over accentuated, but they work because it's just silly, right? But it's not like, cartoon silly. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it always works for me. I always notice those sound effects. I'm like, oh, that's hilarious, man. Like this one piece of hamburger falls out, or guts that is supposed to be, and it's just like, bonk. I love that sound effect, man. Fucking good stuff. I don't know, man. I just find it like pretty brilliant. Like he's good.
Man, the sound effect, like some of them are good. Like they're very close to that edge of like.
Well, yeah, of course, when Belial's abnormal appetite, where he's like feeding him packs of hot dogs and burgers and stuff.
Reminds me of like Gremlins.
It does, man. That's exactly what I was thinking too. It kind of reminds me of that too. The same thing, but I don't know. I enjoy those sound effects. It's just very 80s. That's very, very 80s.
All right. The final thing that I had a bit of an issue with was that just poor stop motion scene. It's not even like cheesily fun. It's just bad.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, it's bad stop motion.
But I mean, to get those type of shots, I mean, you have to, honestly, I give him a lot of credit for that, because he wanted to have some scenes where, I mean, he could have went the puppet route, obviously, right? But he wanted the far out shot, and he wanted to show all of Belial doing those type of things and stuff. I mean, yeah, it's probably not the greatest. I mean, he didn't have any money to obviously do the greatest stop motion, but
well, he did it himself, and he wasn't good at it.
Yeah. But I don't think it's terrible.
It's pretty bad, dude. It's one of the worst stop motion scenes I've seen.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
No, I don't think so, man. I've seen worse. I've seen worse stop motion than that.
I mean, I haven't seen like a million stop motion scenes. Most of the ones I've seen were pretty damn good. But I don't know, man. It's like, it's all
probably
it's
that
bumpy,
were done in an actual studio and everything. Like, I mean, when you're working grindhouse style like that,
but dude, I mean, you can't use that as like an excuse for everything, though, dude. You just can't. You have to judge the film as the film too.
But but really, like, I mean, for what it is, if you're not really knowing what you're doing and you have no budget at all.
But does that make it not bad?
I didn't say it wasn't like it's not really that bad, dude. I don't think it's honestly that bad at all.
I'm just saying, like, if you watch it and you see like the drawer open but nobody's near it and the drawer closes again, like that's bad stop motion, because everything's supposed to go as seamlessly as possible. And I even remember Frank Hennenlotter talking about how he thought it was really a bad job.
It's not like the greatest thing in the world, but I honestly do like the scene when he's fucking banging up and down on the bed and stuff. It works. It's fine.
I like the scene in, like, the idea of it, but I honestly do think that the scene, I might have even cut it from the movie if I was like editing it.
Yeah, I mean, I give him props though, man, for not doing the puppet portion of it. I mean, he obviously used puppet aspects in most of the film, right? I always thought it was kind of an interesting choice. Just to get those shots, and show him totally freaking out in this bedroom and doing that. I don't know why he ever thought that, that was probably the way to go.
I love stop motion when it's done properly, but it's just so bumpy. Like, everything's not like the way that he like drops. It's just like, I don't know. It's really not good in my opinion. It's just, it's done bumpy. It's done, it's inconsistent throughout. Like, there's a lot of inconsistencies in it. It's like if I did the stop motion scene. Like, I've done a little bit of stop motion. It's hard as fuck because it's so time consuming, and the more things you're dealing with, the shittier and harder it is to make everything flow right. So I understand that it, like, doing it himself, never doing it before, he's not gonna be able to do it great, or probably not unless he's a natural at it or whatever. I'm just saying that it looks bad.
Well, what it comes down to, I think it's probably not the best choice to go with the stop motion if you want to get those shots, those full Belial shots of freaking out and stuff. You might just have to fucking bite the bullet. Maybe it probably would have been a better choice to go with the puppet scenes and do that, but
Well, not necessarily if you can make the stop motion work. If the stop
Yeah.
motion would have looked good, then it would have been perfect. But you
Yeah.
know, that's the risk you take, I guess.
Well, it is a big risk because when it comes down to it, again with the budget, I mean, if you film these scenes, you can't go back and redo them. So,
Which is pretty interesting that he actually did that much footage on stop motion, because I'm sure that got really expensive.
well, I mean, if he's doing it himself, it probably wasn't overly that much, but it probably consumed a little bit of his money. And then he's like, well, he's probably looking at it going, well, it's not the greatest, but I can't really reshoot this with, doing puppet scenes and reshoot the whole scenes because it is what it is. But it's independent filmmaking, man. I've seen better stop motion, obviously. I mean, fuck, I always remember the one Tool video with the stop motion, man. Fuck that movie. That video is so amazing. The stop motion is so awesome. But I mean, if you compare it to shit like that, it's just like, yeah, it's not great. It's not great at all. Yeah, it's probably a poor choice to do it that way. I probably just would have went the easy route because I have no patience for it and did the easier thing. But
yeah, I mean,
who knows?
It's just one of those things where I like all the effects that they did, all the gore and stuff. I think Bilal looks good in this one. And that stop motion scene, it just feels like sort of out of place. Like it feels like a big like detour from the actual film.
Well, that's funny that you said out of place because I literally have that noted. I said, as much as I don't mind the attempt at the stop motion, I do feel it is a little bit out of place, right? And I even said Frank used that method. I find it interesting that Frank used that method of effects rather than puppets. That's word for word what I have written down here.
Yeah, like you look at something like Puppet Master, like the first two, where they use stop motion, and that looks really good, and similarly low budget.
Which is interesting because, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, if you're talking 30, I wonder what the budget is on those films. It's crazy.
I don't know. I mean, I know Paramount distributed them, but I don't know if they put up any money for the.
They didn't. Those were picked up.
But that's the thing, though. As you notice in the Puppet Master films, as time went on, they stopped using stop motion because it's fucking so time consuming and ridiculous. But the thing with stop motion is, I think that had Frank Hennenlotter threw a scene early in the movie that had a little bit of stop motion in it, then it's less jarring when it's one scene by itself that goes on pretty long. That's stop motion.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. I never thought of it like that, but I agree. I think it probably would have worked a little better. But I'm rooting for the underdog here. I'm glad. I think it's interesting that he did that. I just find it so intriguing. But maybe it didn't work out for everybody. It is what it is, man. I mean, it is, man. I could just imagine when you were first watching that film going, why would he do that?
I actually didn't even know. I think I liked it more the first couple times I watched it. But as you know, and as the listeners should know by now, watching it now versus when I first seen it, this is now my fourth time watching Basket Case in 3 years, maybe. So I've really got to know this film. When you watch it for this show, you're watching it with a critical eye. Like, at least I do. Like, I'm looking to critique the film. So I'm maybe a little more hard than I would be if I'm just sitting back and enjoying it, obviously. I do love Basket Case, and I do think that, it's like, in terms of a B-movie, like, cult film, it's like a masterpiece when it comes to stuff like that. Basket Case is one of my favorite horror films now, and it has been since like the last two or three times I watched it. But however, I am going to point out some of the bad moves and the what I feel is flaws.
Yeah. It's interesting, man, when you watch a film like this on Blu-ray, and the thing I have noted here is that, watching these low budget films and, the scar on the side of Dwayne, you seeing that in like high def and like, the transfer is pretty good. Right, you just see how fake that really is.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't think that it kind of looks like Freddy's makeup in Part 6, where it's just like too rubbery looking. But I think the biggest problem with it is the
it looks dry to me.
The
Yeah,
shading is, the colors are inconsistent from his skin tone to the
Yeah, yeah.
fleshy stuff.
It totally is. I agree with that 100%. Yeah, it looks, yeah, the shading is definitely wrong, but it looks really dry and just kind of, it just doesn't look proper. Like, it looks like it's just kind of done purposely. You know, it doesn't look natural, is what I'm trying to say at all, really. But yeah, and it's probably a lot to do. I mean, if you're watching this in 42nd Street back in 1982, you're probably not noticing that at all. But the high def transfer, yeah, it definitely sticks out, man. You know, one of my biggest complaints with this film is that I wish that Frank had have, you know, tried to focus on a little bit more gore, because, you know, they make Belial out to be pretty vicious, right? He's got tendencies that are pretty nasty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just wish that he had have put in a little bit more gore into this film. This is definitely probably the least gory film of the three. I mean, the third one probably is definitely the goriest. I mean, with the whole third act is just ridiculous. But yeah, this one doesn't really have a lot of gore in it. And it always kind of surprised me just based on how he is. You know, you kind of get these glimpses of his personality and that he's just out to fuck. He doesn't give a shit, right? And there is moments where the effects are pretty cool and stuff, but there's just not a lot of it. But, you know, that is one kind of complaint that I do have with the film. I would like to see a little bit more of those type of effects. I mean, like we said, you know, low budget films. I've seen low budget films that are made for $5,000 today that have crazy effects.
Yeah, you know,
crazy effects, man. Like, but then again, that's pretty much what they focus on.
Yeah, but now also effects artists are more like everybody. It's like cool to be an effects artist now, and like there's schools and stuff. Back then, it was like you knew somebody. It was like an apprenticeship type thing. You know, you had to know somebody.
I think the scene in this film that kind of solidifies the fact that I wanted to see, you know, the kill a little bit more is when the dude gets split by the saw blade.
Yeah.
You know, I would have loved to have seen that, because all you see is the aftermath. I mean, you do see the half the body kind of fall off and stuff, but you know, I would actually like to see those see that actually happen. But
I really like the time that we spend with Belial and Dwayne, and I really buy their relationship, and I buy that like Belial is obviously super jealous and doesn't want the intrusion of a female because he'll lose Dwayne, which then what does he have? He has nothing.
Well, of course, because Dwayne's his sole guardian, like not his guardian, but the person that looks after him, the person that feeds him and stuff. He's obviously going to be jealous of everybody, and they do capture that quite well. It's very prevalent in the story.
Yes,
it's very, very well done. It's very well done.
Sure. I like the scene in the bar where he's talking to the black chick and she's all like, "What's in the basket?" And he's like, "It's my Siamese twin brother. We were separated." And he goes into this big long thing.
Dude, I literally have that written down in quotes. I love that scene too, man. He's all shit faced.
Awesome.
It's so great. The look on her face, like, yeah. So good.
Yeah, so you think you want to get into ratings?
Yeah, I guess, man. We're just not going to talk about the end at all. I guess we can talk about it in part two. No, whatever. We can recap it in part two. But I don't know. You can go first, man.
Okay, so like I said, I absolutely love Basket Case. I think that it's an awesome movie. I also think that it does have a lot of issues, which I talked about. They do affect my rating, of course, as any film. You know, anytime I rate a film, the issues definitely affect my rating. But I feel like this is actually like a good movie. Like I truly believe that, minus the few scenes that I pointed out, and even with the ending, that was more of like a nitpick. I think that there's only, you know, the other two problems I mentioned, I think were a little bit more of an issue, like the you know, stop motion and stuff. But I give Basket Case the same rating that I've given it multiple times, and that is an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, man. I love the way this film develops, man. You know, it's kind of got this low-key, subtle approach to a revenge flick, and I love that idea. I love the aspect of the brothers having this kind of telepathic ESP relationship. I think it works. I really do like that, man. The one thing about this movie that I always find very interesting, and I was trying to bring up earlier, was Hennenlotter's ability to actually pace his films out quite well. I mean, all three of these films are relatively about the same length long, and the pacing in the film is just really good, man. There's never like a moment where you're like, oh my God, like seriously.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely in the first basket case, it is 100% super well paced.
Yeah,
except for the
first, the first one's really good, man. It's just amazing. Love cinematography. Yeah, JP pointed out some points that I can probably agree with. Stop motion, probably not the best choice in the world. I don't think it's the worst thing ever. I just think probably the puppet effect probably would have been a lot better for the film. I do really agree with bringing up having like a little bit of a stop motion kind of glimpse earlier in the film if you're gonna have this big kind of drawn out scene with Belial and stuff. I that's a good point. This whole film is fantastic, man. I think one thing I like about this film is the sets, man, because they actually built a lot of these things, and I never noticed until I was watching it this time, which is kind of funny because I did notice while I was watching the film that some of the walls were kind of moving when they were, going in from room to room and things like that. And then after watching the documentary, I learned that they'd actually built these sets. I actually thought it was shot like in a real hotel and things like that. And I was like, what the fuck? And they were actually moving. I was like, okay, what the fuck? And yeah, I learned that they actually built these things out of like, I don't even know, like some type of wall. I don't know. But anyways, it was moving.
Yeah, they actually, both of the people's rooms were used. It was one room that they just dressed differently.
Yeah, I think they just kind of put like kind of sheets over these things. I don't know, but it was funny that I noticed it and I didn't know that, and then I saw it in the documentary. I thought it was kind of interesting, but typical low budget indie filmmaking. But yeah, it is what it is. But I am also going to go with the exact same rating. I'm going to give this film an 8 out of 10. There's definitely room for improvement, but I think it's a great first film for a documentary filmmaker. For a filmmaker for his first film, man, I think it's just great.
Oh,
it's
dude,
good job.
I would be so proud of myself if I created Basket Case.
Big time. They were made out of canvas. That's the word I was looking for. That's why they were moving. The walls were canvas.
Oh yeah.
That's fucking amazing, man. So good. Yeah. So 8 out of 10. Basket Case. Good film, man. Really, really good film. So moving into Basket Case Part 2, which, doesn't really surprise me. It came out 8 years after
That's crazy.
the original one. He had done, I guess, well, technically he had done 2 films before this one. Frankenhooker wasn't released until after this one. He did Brain Damage, which is, we'll talk about that one next week. And this one picks up exactly where the first one leaves off. And that's the cool thing about this trilogy, is that the films are like one big ass long film. Straight up continuity. Awesome. So basically what we got here for the second one is Dwayne and his basket-bound mutant brother are taken in by a secret home for wayward freaks with a journalist hot on their tail. Yeah. So in this one, you not only get one freak in Belial, you get a whole fucking school of them. I like that.
I don't.
I really do, man. I really, really like this approach, man. Really?
Dude, this movie, dude.
Oh, it's so fucking fun, man. I love it. And I love hearing Frank Hennenlotter talk about it, and it's good stuff, man. Like, all the
Hopefully
designs.
you can change my mind or something.
I'm not here to change your mind, man. You have your own opinions. I'm not here to change your mind at all. I'll never try to change your mind. I'm going to tell you my opinions. This movie is interesting because this is really nothing what you would ever expect from a sequel from Basket Case. It's really strange. So this movie picks up right after the first one, where at the end of the first film, him and his brother end up falling out of the hotel and they are assumed dead. They have this scuffle and yeah, they fall to the ground and they apparently die in the same position that they were born. I really like that scene. Like, Belial looks like he's kind of connected to, to Dwayne. I really like that. But anyways, this one picks up right after that. And yeah, so what happens is he wakes up in a hospital and they kind of break their way out of there. and they get approached by Granny Ruth, who basically, she has like this coven, like I don't want to say coven, but she has like this house. She has like this huge freak family back at her place, and she's heard about these brothers before. So once they break out, she just happens to be there. She scoops them up and takes them back to her place where, you know, they can go live in peace in this big freak family type deal. And yeah, and that's basically your film right there. I think it's kind of interesting that Frank Hennenlotter, he pointed out that he wanted all the freaks to be very non-human like. You know, he wanted them to be like very kind of ridiculous designs, and like, you know, these were.
Did he say why he wanted to do that?
Because he didn't want them to resemble humans.
Did he say why he didn't want them to?
Because he didn't want it to be offensive.
Oh, that
he didn't. So that's why the freaks in this film look so ridiculous and over the top. I mean,
you know what? I actually heard him talk about that a little bit too. Also for the MPAA, because they were being really dicks around this era.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because he had filmed. We talked, you know, Frankenhooker just before this, and they like really got on his ass about that film. They started butchering the fucking shit out of the film, and you know, he kind of took a chance with this one. He gave it to him pretty gory and all that type of stuff, and they kind of shunned it through because they were so worried about Frankenhooker at the time. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I also read that because it was like more of a silly gore. Like I think that also helped it. There's actually a special feature on the Synapse, I believe, release of this that has the makeup effects. I watched it. I think it has the makeup effects team, and they talk about like how they were kind of making it a little more silly so that the MPAA wouldn't chop it to bits.
They didn't go into that on the document. Like they talk about the effects and like the designs. They even talked to the effects artist about his creations and stuff, and you know, like why he went with those and like how he did it and stuff. But they didn't really talk about like how it was supposed to be super silly. It was just he just wanted them not to resemble like a human, you know, straight up, because he didn't want it to be offensive. It was kind of more of like a fun thing for him, you know.
Yeah, honestly, dude, I think it's a bad move.
The word he used was fantasy. He wanted the film to be not like a straight up horror.
Oh yeah,
film.
it definitely feels like a fantasy movie.
Yeah,
for sure.
And that's what he wanted. He wanted to be like straight up fantasy, just kind of have fun with these characters and just kind of explore this world that maybe people don't know about that exists, which is
what's that movie with Fred Savage where there's monsters under his bed and shit?
Little Monsters.
It reminds me of that.
Yeah, it does actually.
Yeah. And that's kind of one of my beefs with this film is like tonally, I think it's such a fucking step down from the first film that it annoyed me. And
well, it's 100% intended like that though too. It's not like he was trying to make the first and you know, and he was completely trying not to do that first film again.
Yeah, see that just like even if it is intended, like I still just think it's a bad choice.
I don't think so, man. I think it's actually quite fun.
Because like what I like to see in a sequel is a continuation of the first film. And since they do literally continue the first film,
oh, it's straight up continuity, yeah.
Then it's different if you have a completely different story. But because you're telling the same story and you change everything, that's annoying to me because like it's like no, like now but then just do something else. Do something with different characters. Like why are you taking the characters that we know and the relationships that you built already and then changing everything? I didn't like that, dude. Like it was like very frustrating to me because even the dynamic for one, Dwayne's performance is way worse than it was in the first film. I feel like he was misguided and he was kind of all over the place with it. Didn't really know which way to go with the character because everything had changed and everything was so different now. I feel like the relationship with him and Bilal was like all twisted now, and it was kind of just.
But it's supposed to be. He's supposed to be a little more on edge because now he's like out of the big city and he's in this new area where he's not really supposed to be, and he doesn't really know what the hell's going on or where they're going to be going. He's like, okay,
Yeah, but
now
if
I'm
you
around
just
all
kind
these
of
other
explain
freaks.
the first film. He's in a new place where he hasn't been before. He doesn't know where he's going.
But there was actually a point to the first film. Like, yeah, he was a naive person in the first film, but there was still a point. They were there ultimately to get revenge on these doctors that did them harm. Well, now they've kind of accomplished, what they were supposed to do. Now they've been taken away technically, by this or taken in by this Granny Ruth, but now they're in this whole different world. And the reason why his character is kind of high strung and he's a little different and stuff is because it's almost like he's trying to
What is he trying to do?
He's trying to accept that maybe this is who he is, because he never really sees himself as a freak himself, because he always sees Belial as the freak. But then he's kind of accepted as one of them. And it's kind of noted too. It's like, well, you actually are kind of a freak yourself, because you are still half of Belial. And he's trying to come to grips with being, oh, wait a minute, I actually am part of Belial. And that's why he's so confused, and that's why
that was an arc for him. But I honestly, I feel like it was to me, that was just sort of like a mini arc. Like I don't know, like it didn't seem like that. It didn't seem like the first part of the movie was him figuring that all out. It just seemed like by the end of it, it's like, oh, that also you're a freak.
Well, the story in the second film isn't very strong, though.
To
be honest, like it's not very strong. So it is just a lot of introduction. You find yourself in the first 45 minutes of the film being introduced to not only Granny Ruth, but to the girl and all the other freaks and what they do and what Granny Ruth is about, and how she's kind of segregated these freaks into this area so they can live like a normal life. There really isn't a lot of story going on. There's this character development with Dwayne, kind of reacting to what he's taking in his new setting, in his new surroundings.
Yeah, but to me, it's like
That's
not
all it
really
is.
reacting that much.
Well, I think it's because there's.
Very subdued.
Are you talking about his performance in general, or just?
I feel like both the character direction that the characters took it in and his performance itself. Like, I don't blame him as an actor, because I feel like he was sort of like he honestly didn't know. Like, I feel like he was trying to play the character a bunch of different ways because he didn't really know how he was supposed to play him, because the story is so different. I feel like in the first film he knew exactly what his character's story was.
Yeah, you know what? I can see that. I can totally see that. Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
But like there's certain things that I did like about it. Like if you take a step back and you disassociate it from the first film, like it's a cool little like silly, like creepy, like not creepy, but like creaturey, like just weirdo stuff.
Well, this is precisely why I watched the films the way I did. I watched Basket Case on Tuesday, and I only watched the first one specifically because I'd watched a documentary, and I was actually planning on watching part 2 right after. And then when they said that they've basically done pre-production on part 2 and part 3 together, they basically kind of did those films together as one.
Oh, they definitely feel like that.
Yeah, and the tone and the feel and the look, everything about those two films is like identical. It's crazy. And when they kind of got that into my head, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna leave part 1 tonight. I'm gonna watch part 2 and part 3 tomorrow. So I watched part 2 and 3 as one, and it was just like this continuation, but this like total different feel, but the rest of the story kind of deal. So I kind of took it like that.
I felt like I watched part 1, and then I popped Basket Case 2 in, and I watched like 10 minutes of it, and then I waited, and then it was like 2 days later when I watched Basket Case 2, and then I watched
Going
Basket
back
Case
to me
3
saying,
today.
Who the fuck watches 20 minutes of a film and shuts it off?
Well, I fell asleep. It's different than shutting it off.
No, I'm just...
But no, seriously, like, one of the other issues that I have with this one, man, is it's just like, I don't give a fuck about the granny and the daughter and all these other people. Like, they're way too involved here. Like that story, I don't care about her. What is she even doing? Like, her whole arc is that she wants to have a place for freaks, and that is there anything else there?
She's just a godsend, man.
But she's so involved in the film for that little story right there. She's way too involved in the film.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, you learn later that she has a freak of her own, and that's kind of the reason why she has this home for the freaks. Like, she has a son of her own that's this freak.
Mhm.
So she feels shitty, man. She feels shitty, and she doesn't want them to be, ostracized in the world and, kind of shunned out, and, put them together, let them live their lives like this, and they'll be happy. That's her only role.
Mhm.
That's what she's there to do. She's just there to make them happy and
Yeah.
nothing else. There's really not a lot to her character, even though.
Which is why it's problematic when she's such a fucking mainstay in the plot and the story, and she's always on the screen.
Yeah, because she's really trying to, like, focus on Dwayne and Belial, kind of heal that or mend that relationship, and kind of control Belial at the same time, because he's, obviously off the wall a little bit. And at this point, Dwayne's mentality is all fucked up too, because he's confused. He doesn't know where the hell, if he should break off or he should go this way or that. And see, there's these minor kind of subtle
I
things
feel like
where
his performance is that of Pamela Springsteen in Sleepaway Camp 2. Where it just feels like the character was just like kind of rolling with whatever, like just it was like kind of like it was just, I don't know, like they feel like very similar. It's almost like breaking the third wall or something. Like it almost feels like
it's funny
Dwayne is like he's like aware that he's like, I don't know, it's a freaking weird performance, man.
It is, man. It is strange, but I don't find it as strange as part 3, because I actually have noted it for part 3 that his performance is so over the top and just crazy, but it's supposed to be a little crazy because of what he's gone through.
I might be mishing them together, honestly, because like
it
feels like one long movie. That part 2 and part 3 are like this
part 3 basically when he's like in the straitjacket and they're going on the
like when he's looking out the butt. That's more what I'm thinking of.
Oh yeah, no, literally I have it written down. I'll even show you that his performance in part 3 is insanely over the top, but he's actually it does make a little bit of sense because he is supposed to be completely insane at this point, kind of crazy and stuff, but it is a little on edge for the viewer. When you watch, you're like, I don't know if I'm buying into that at all.
The best scene in Basket Case 2 is when they go to that like freak show carnival and that dude's like he answers, he's all sleeping and shit, and he answers his phone and he's like, I got the Bradley twins here, one of them. Like, I love that whole scene. Like, that shit was actually funny to me. I was laughing at that.
Yeah. I don't know, man. This film right here, I mean, you can tell that the budget is completely elevated. There's like, Belial looks amazing in this film. Like, they did such a good job with the animatronics, for even like 1990. Like, I think it's fantastic, man. Really good. There's even a couple scenes in this film that are close-up shots. I don't know if you noticed, but they used a real face as Belial.
Yeah.
So when it cuts to that, man, dude, is that ever freaky, man? I actually burst out laughing one time. I was like, fuck, is that ever creepy, man?
He kind of reminds me of the head from Head of the Family in this one, honestly.
A little bit. Yeah, it does, actually. That's a good note. But fuck me, man. If it didn't happen a couple times in the film, like I kept looking at him going, damn, that is fucking this is freaky looking. I don't know, there's something about it. It's probably the transfer, because the Blu-ray transfer is so amazing on part 2 and 3. It's like unbelievable. Everyone's got to see these films on Blu-ray. It's just crazy.
One of the things that obviously I said that I really didn't like the tone change in the films. Like that's just my number one complaint, 100%. Like,
is this the first time you've seen the sequels?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But honestly, like, the freaks, though, to me, like, they look cool as if like, oh, like, hey, look at this like thing, this is pretty cool. But like, for like movie characters, like, they all don't look good to me. Like, they look cool. Yeah. But they don't look good. They look rubber. Like, all of them look rubber. All of them look fake, and like, I don't know. Like, they don't look like real, biological matter.
I honestly think it was intended, though, because he didn't want him to look human. He wanted to look so fantasy. I mean, when I think of fantasy, I think of cartoon. And seeing something like that, it's just like, if you're gonna have a design where some dude has this huge like circle of moon on his face, like, if you make that shit look real, it's just like in that type of tone, I don't think it works at all. I think the look and, even kind of making it kind of look, semi-fake. I mean, you can tell these are rubber heads and, plasters, whatever. I think it fits the tone, because the tone is not serious at all in this film. It is not serious at all. I mean, it even gets worse in part 3 with, musical scenes, things like that, right? But I don't know, man. I honestly, the thing about the freaks in this, or the unique people, or whatever they refer to, I don't even think they call them freaks. They call them like unique or whatever. They don't really have much identities at all, except for visual in the film.
And see, I wish that if we were gonna do this sort of like fantasy world of freaks thing, like let's spend some time getting to know the freaks and not the old woman who nobody cares about. Like that was really one of the things that I 100% thought of the whole time while watching both of these two. I was like, okay, so you have these like unique ass looking characters, and when you introduce them, you say like, oh, this one can sing and stuff, and then nothing. And for the next two movies, they're so prevalent, they're so in your face, yet you don't know anything about them. Let's give up all this nonsensical plot that you're doing, and like let's focus on, like, you set up this fantasy world. Let's do that, Frank Hennenlotter. Let's not focus on this other shit.
I just think that, bringing in the freaks was just more of a visual thing. I mean, I don't think the intent was ever to focus on the actual freaks. It was still about Dwayne and Belial.
But it's not, though. This film ain't even about that, really.
I mean, it kind of technically is. I mean, it's really trying to mend them and stuff, and it's just they're just set. Their characters are just kind of put into this new world. Their new reality is this freak world. That's what their surrounding is. That's their setting. But technically, the story is still focusing on them. They just have a meteor, in Granny Ruth. That's what it is. She's like the psychologist. She's the doctor. She's the mother. She's the caretaker. She's everything to them. That's kind of that's what her stance is. I mean, that's just the way I see it. And I mean, and it makes sense.
But what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that like the very little story that's in this film isn't about them. It's that that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing like you said, this like mediating, like how many scenes even have Belial and what's fucking Dwayne together? Like we're seeing all this shit with these freaks. We're seeing Dwayne's love interest, who honestly I could care less about in this one, way less than the first one.
Honestly, man, that's one thing I hate about this film too, is that whole love interest thing. I think it's complete garbage.
Besides the reveal, like the reveal was cool, like, and it made it kind of worth it.
Yeah,
because that was kind of cool. But like, dude, seriously, like this film, like plot wise, is like embarrassing compared to the first one.
Exactly. I mean, compared to, but I mean, you kind of have to look at it just as this film. I mean, it was intended to be something completely different. I mean, you can see it. I mean, right away. I mean, the film is totally,
and I understand that it was intended, dude, but like seriously, that was a bad move.
But they show you right in the very first scene of the film. In the very first shot of the film is they show the reporter on the new in Times Square, which is 42nd Street. And it's kind of funny because, this is 1990. It was all cleaned up by then. There was no 42nd Street anymore. I thought it was kind of interesting how it was like, okay, this is the new reality, and then we're going to take it over here.
But even
I love that. I think that's a really good contrast.
I just thought that there was going to be
second film.
Like the reporter stuff, like that goes nowhere really. Like, I don't know, man. It's just like, I just think it's a mess. It's a mess of a movie.
Well, I mean, yeah, the script is not strong at all. And, and to be honest, there's a lot of moments in this film where there's a lot of downtime. Like in the first film, the pacing is really, really good. This one has actually pretty shit pacing, and it does have a really shitty subplot, man, with, of course, there's always a fucking reporter that's all about the money and doesn't give a shit about exploiting these freaks or whatever happens to these freaks. Yeah, she's a fucking bitch. She's a fucking cunt. And she also gets what she fucking deserves.
But she don't even feel like that much of an evil. Like, she doesn't even, like, the character isn't
but
even
they literally,
well written.
But they literally have a conversation, that bitch with her boss, and it's just like, how much you gonna pay me? There's literally a line that says, how much you gonna pay me?
Yeah, but it's also like, it's like mustache twirly, like evil. Like, it's not serious. Like, it's like fucking, I can't even not like her because it's like, you're not even it's not even real.
Well, I mean, I cannot like her. I mean, I actually hate her because she doesn't give a shit about if she, exposes these freaks or what happens to these freaks at all. She doesn't give a shit. So therefore, she is
to
not
me like that comes like, it's hard to really get behind these silly looking things that aren't even freaks. They're like rubber.
Yeah, but this
You
also
really got to use
includes,
your imagination in this one, man.
I know, but this also includes Dwayne and Belial, which we do know. This also
Yeah, but
includes
it
them.
feels like I don't know I feel
Because
like
they're on the run. They're
they are,
technically
right?
on the run now because they escaped from blah blah blah, and that's the whole thing, right? And yeah, the story is I totally 100% we agree it's weak.
Let me ask you this:
totally weak sauce,
if
but
you were going, if I was like, hey, have you ever seen Basket Case 2? And you're like, yeah, it's pretty good. Like, what are like some key points of positives that you would give me in this film?
I guess it's all depending on what you like, though, man. Like I like the fact that this film went a little cartoony and took the fantasy route. I mean, if you might if
Why?
you
It
want
doesn't
to,
even do it good, though. It doesn't even do good fantasy and cartoony.
I disagree. I think it does it good. I think exactly
Good.
what Frank Hennenlotter set out to do is what he accomplished. It was supposed to be a silly, goofy film that wasn't full of like one-liners and all that type of bullshit. This was
I've
just
seen silly, good, goofy, and I like. I don't know, man.
But this is also your personal taste, though, right? Because I mean, I think it works. I mean, this one is silly and goofy, but it's not silly and goofy at the same time, if you know what I was saying. There's not like a lot of stupid one-liners and just like retarded moments and things like that. It has visually, it's silly and goofy. It has this whole fantasy world about it that I think is cool because, I mean, really, you can't remake the first film. You're not going to capture that. You have to take a different route. I think taking a completely different route is a good thing.
And there's a million different ways you can go with than this.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm sure there is, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about this film, right? So I don't know. I mean,
okay. Besides that, it's silly and goofy and fun. What else? What else is good about this film?
Honestly, I think there's a lot of really good cinematography in the film is great again. I mean, again, he knows how to edit films. I really enjoy the editing in this film, especially towards the end. The effects are better in this film. That's kind of a bonus, but all that said, though, it still is a very, very basic film. It's a very basic film that I find that if you're looking for something completely different than the first film, why not do this? Yeah. I agree with it, man. I mean, the last thing in the world I would want to see, and I would tell this to someone, I'd be like, hey, if you like the first Basket Case, the second one's completely different in tone, look, story, everything. It's just, it's not the same. It's just full of like dark humor is what it is. It's like I said, it's not overly, like clown silly. It's just full of dark humor. There's a lot of dark humor scenes in this film that are very subtle. And I like that about it. I thought it was fun. So I'm a big fan of subtle dark humor, man. I think that's great. It's the second film tonight I talked about with subtle dark humor is great.
I'm a big fan of it too. And, it kind of missed a mark on this one for me personally. Like I said, that one scene I found pretty funny, and then the reveal of like what was going on with that one chick and her sort of future, like that was funny, and then like mostly nothing else was funny.
I really, the one thing I really do hate about this film though is the subplot with the reporter, man. I wish they had to come up with something a little bit different, just because it is such a cliche. Mm-hmm. It's just such a cliche, and I think that's the biggest downfall for this film because having such a cliched storyline like that just creates a lot of downtime. It creates such a slow film because it cuts back into it and you're just like, ugh, my God, like there is a lot of downtime in this film, which is kind of unfortunate because the first one doesn't have any.
One of the things about sequels that like I care about usually is sometimes I do like to see something different. Like if you do like Chainsaw 2, which is kind of, you can compare it directly to this film in terms of like a tonal shift. But most of the time I like continuations of characters, especially if it's the same characters, like Psycho 2 or Scream 2 or anything like that. Like I don't like the films to feel like they're completely different if you're going to be continuing stories. So I mean, right away, like that was a huge negative to me. But if you do kind of remove it from the first film,
which I think you have to in this case, man.
Yeah, and it is hard though because you are following like a direct linear timeline.
Oh,
of
I
events.
understand. It's got to be. It's like a shock to the system. You know, you go from one tone and it's all like straight continuity to this tone. You're like, what the fuck?
I just
Yeah,
I don't
it's
feel
like a
heart
shock.
in this film, man. I really don't. I feel like people wanted to see Basket Case, and he was just like, okay, I guess I'll do another Basket Case film. Because I haven't really done much since the first Basket Case. I don't
This
know,
was
what the
this
fuck?
was like an honest to God thing though. Like he did this film, you know, because he wanted to make the film. Like he literally talks about it, man. And he's like quite proud of this. He was like, he really enjoys this film. He doesn't really care for part 3 so much, but he really enjoys
That's
this
funny
one.
because part 3 is better.
He actually says that it's pretty bad. He's like, he even says in the documentary, he's like, I don't even understand what I was thinking with doing a musical piece in the middle of a film on a fucking
It fits
bus.
more than anything in this movie because at least that one is like, okay, 100% now we're going
No
fully
way.
into this.
No way. That's just like having any like a musical piece, like just I don't know, man. I always hate random musical pieces in films. If you're gonna make a musical, make the whole fucking thing a musical. Don't have random musicals scenes in films. I think
Anyway, I don't know, man. I there's stuff
Come on,
that I
man.
like about it, but this
on,
movie
man.
sucks, dude.
No, I don't think so, man. I think there's a lot of flaws in this, and I think that Dwayne falling in love again is just so damn cliched again. It has a lot of cliches.
I don't think it becomes super cliche until the third one. Then I'm like, oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, but like, fuck, man.
It's like
you know,
the same way too, like all 3 times. It's just like,
no, I know Dwayne
shit.
falling. No, I even literally have written down Dwayne falling in love. What a fucking cliche. But it's just like the same format, right? But honestly, one of the biggest highlights of this film, man, for me, is Belial's sex scene is absolutely fucking hilarious in this film. I started pissing myself laughing watching this shit again. I know you just don't have the sense of humor, I guess, to get it, but I'm fucking pissing myself at this because it's so ridiculous.
It was alright. Like
Where
it
the
was
fuck
like
is his
kinda...
dick? He doesn't have a dick. Like, how's he humping, man? It's like so ridiculous. I'm watching this going, fuck, I forgot how fucking stupid this was. It's so funny.
Yeah, this one to me, it's like, I don't know. Maybe I was just expecting something different, which is definitely partially why I'm so negative on this one, because I wanted something different. I wanted something the same. Like I wanted a sequel to Basket Case, not this. And I was just expecting a little more from Mr. Hennenlotter. I really was. Like this is bad on many levels. Like in terms of filmmaking. Like yeah, okay, the cinematography is good. The directing, in terms of like what's on the screen, film wise, like shot wise, is decent. But the pacing, the storytelling, the script, the pointless characters, the all over the place direction of the characters, like it's not very good. Mm-hmm. And it hurts me to say that a little bit because I really like Frank Hennenlotter when I see him in interviews. Like I freaking love that guy. And I do, and it does hurt me to say that, but I honestly think this is a bad movie.
Yeah, interesting, man. Honestly, man, story wise, yeah, this movie stinks. The story in this film is just not great. Like I've never been a fan of it, but I find it ultra fun. I really do. I find it a lot of fun. And I think that there's a lot of well executed scenes, man. I love the scene in the bar where fucking Belial attacks the publisher in that scene, man, and they have that big fucking battle like through the door and like in the back room and shit. I love that scene, man. It's great. It's bloody. It's well executed. Like there's good moments in this film. I hate the subplot in this film sucks too. But I mean, all in all, the whole film is ridiculous. But I mean, I guess I can have fun with shit like this because I enjoy things like this, man. I really do.
I enjoy things like this. If this film was called like Freak Show or something, I'd be like, oh, this is like a fun, silly little movie. But it's Basket Case 2. It's a fucking sequel to an awesome movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I when I'm watching the film, I'm not thinking of part 1 at all. I'm just taking this
But it's a continuation, so it's that's the problem with it. Is like
I know, but it's like the next day, right? Like you can't, it's not the same day. You know, it's Basket Case is Friday, this is Saturday.
Okay?
You know, it's like, I don't know, man. It's just, it works for me because
The world is different in Basket Case 2 than Basket Case 1.
yeah. I mean, I can have fun with shit like this. I know it's not a great film, man. I just really wish that they just hadn't. Frank Hennenlotter is a lot better than, you know, cliches. You know,
Yeah.
in my opinion, especially when you watch fucking like Brain Damage, man. Man, that shit's good. Really, really good. Really interesting script. But I don't know, man. Just a lot of cliches and there's a lot of
The
funny
whole
moments.
time I was watching this, I kept thinking of the Freaks episode in South Park where Butters has balls on his chin. And like it's like, lobster boy, you don't want to know what we did to him. Turned out he was a real lobster.
Yeah, totally.
But you want to get into ratings on this one?
Yeah. Go ahead, man. I want
You
to
go
hear your
first this time.
All right, man. Yeah, I mean, I've stated, man, this movie is, you know, story wise, I just find it completely, it's ridiculous. Too many cliches in this film. But there is enough fun scenes in this film, I think, that is worth the watch. I mean, if you can take an awesome film and, you know, accept a silly, kind of goofy, dark humored, ridiculous fantasy sequel, for what it is, I think that you might have a little bit of fun with this. There is a lot of problems with this, man. I do agree with a little bit of the direction is off at times, man, but it's shot so well, man. Some of the scenes are executed so well, edited well. And the music's actually pretty interesting in this film too. It's strange. The music in this film is really, really strange. But you know, overall, man, not the best film in the world. I don't think it's, you know, the worst thing I've ever seen in my life, but I'm going to give it a 5.5 out of 10. So
Thank God. I was gonna shit my pants if it was like a 8 or something.
no, there's,
So
you know me, man, I've always stated, man, I'm not a big fan of like cliches and shit. Like it brings down shit big time. But honestly, this film's worth to watch just for the fucking bar scene. Shit's fun.
okay, so my rating for this film is it's one that I debated on for a little while, and I tried to disconnect myself from the first film, but it's hard to do in a film that's called Basket Case 2, and it starts up right where the last one left off. But if I am taking it for what it is, and it is this weird, bizarro fantasy horror comedy, it's kind of cool. And like Mood says, you will have a little bit of fun. And I stress little bit of fun.
It's debatable.
You said it yourself, bro. You said a little bit of fun. You know, honestly, I think it kind of sucks as a sequel. 100%. It's a shitty ass sequel, but as its own thing, it's just an average movie. Give it a 5 out of 10.
Yeah. I thought you were going to come in way lower. I mean,
I thought it was too.
Obviously, I know this. I mean, there's just a lot of, I don't know why, you know, if you're going to have a film 8 years after the fact, you know, at least put a little more effort. If you're going to make a goofy script like this, at least kind of fill out that goofy script. You know what I'm saying? Like, just, you know, what I'm saying is just get rid of the goddamn cliches. Dwayne falling in love again. Fuck off. The stupid, I mean, we've seen the, you know, the reporter story a million fucking times. Infiltrating. And I like what you said though. The twisty mustache.
The twirly mustache.
That's the twirly. That's good, man. I like that.
Yeah. But you know, it's like of course, like, honestly, if I was like, hey, let me, like, Basket Case 2 doesn't exist. Like, oh, I got an idea. Belial meets another freak that's like him, and they have little Belials. Like, that's something I would say in, like, passing as, like, not a filmmaker, as, like that's, like, the best, like, short idea I could come up with. Like, that's not even that complex. Like, that's a pretty damn basic idea that you would think that it would go next.
Oh, shit, that's funny.
All right, let's go into Basket Case 3 from 1991. Also written and directed by Frank Hennenlotter, but also written by Robert Martin. So one thing I wanted to mention previously, Moodz, and my bad.
Do you know who Robert Martin is?
No.
I believe he was the old chief editor for Fangoria magazine.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
So Beverly Bonner had a cameo at the beginning of Basket Case 2, which I thought was really cool, because she was well, she was on the news.
Yeah.
Apparently she's in this one as well, but she plays a different character, and I didn't like that. I didn't even see her, though. I missed her.
Shit, I don't know.
Did you miss her, too?
I might have. Yep.
Okay.
Shit,
Yeah.
I don't know which one.
She played a fast food worker.
Huh. Yeah, maybe. Fuck. Man, when Grandma Ruth goes into the place and orders for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Just throwing out random numbers, like 16 cheeseburgers, 24 chicken burgers. I'm like, what the fuck's with the numbers? It's not even.
So let's go into the plot on this one. Dwayne recovers from his delusional breakdown to find his freakish basket-bound brother, Belial, will soon become a father, but not everything is joyous as the once tight-knit brothers no longer seem to trust each other. So right away, I got to say, in this one, I find that maybe I was a little bit more used to it by now, but I think I enjoyed this one a little bit more than the second one. One of the things that I think it has all of the same problems as the first or the second film, in terms of literally almost everything that I mentioned in the second film. But I also find that
it's practically it feels it's like the exact same film as part 2.
Yeah.
Hence them being done at like the exact same time kind of thing. So it's very noticeable.
So I felt like the relationship between Belial and Dwayne was even more all over the place, and just I don't know. I just don't think it was developed nicely.
Well, there almost isn't one. It's like, the end of part 2 where he decides that he's going to go fucking insane, and he thinks that, the only way to kind of resolve his issues with his brother is to attach him back to his side.
Which honestly isn't that terrible of an idea.
I'd like to see it, man. It looked good though.
Yeah, I mean, it did. I was, I was actually, no, that's actually, never mind. But yeah, I thought that looked pretty cool. Like, he grabbed a big sewing needle or like a knitting needle and just started jabbing him in there.
Oh yeah, he sewed that motherfuckery back on there. So part 3, Dwayne wakes up in a he's actually in Granny Ruth's house, but she's got this padded room, of course, and he's in a straitjacket, and of course Belial is not attached to him. They detached him, and he's like full blown insane. Now, yeah, he's like crazy, and and that's what I was referring to when we were talking about part 2, is his performance in this one. It's like so over the top. It's understandable where he's trying to come from, because he's supposed to be pretty crazy, pretty agitated. He doesn't really understand what the hell just happened to him, kind of thing. I think he's lost all touch with reality, kind of deal. And that's essentially what it is. I don't know, man. This movie, this one really kind of grits on me, man. I understand the end of part 2. The Belial has some sex, gets a girl pregnant, and this one he's having some fucking babies. And so basically what they have to do is they have to travel, because Granny Ruth knows this doctor down in the deep south that, obviously has accepted their freak reality and things like that, to go give birth to these babies and stuff. The whole idea is just ridiculous. And actually the guy from Fangoria, he pretty much wrote this film. It was, it was kind of mostly him. Hennenlotter had this idea what they kind of went off the baby thing, and then he just kind of rolled with it, and he kind of wrote pretty much everything. It's just, I don't know. I find the humor in this film to be completely different because it's totally someone else penning it. You notice that there's a lot of different type of jokes, and the third act in this film.
I thought they were actually a little bit funnier though.
Well, it's funny because when they're interviewing the guy on the documentary, he goes, "Yeah, most people seem to really hate part 3 because of the comedy, and it's probably because I have a really bad sense of humor and I only find this shit funny." I just thought that was hilarious. But to be honest, I had a lot of laughs in this film. I think the third act is probably the best and the goriest in the whole trilogy kind of thing.
Yeah, I like the third act in this one.
But I think
I'm yawning.
Honest to God, leading up to that though, it's just a lot of over the top acting. You have a lot of the same shit that's going on in the first. There's just a lot of development. The freaks are around. They're in this bus, which is it was so ridiculous because there's a lot of scenes that are filmed inside this bus, and of course it's all blacked out with sheets and stuff, so you can't see the freaks and stuff. And I don't know, man. I just find it kind of ridiculous that, you know, they spend so much time with that, and then to top it off, you know, they're traveling down to the deep south so Belial's girlfriend can give birth, and all of a sudden it breaks into a fucking musical. See, I'm not a big fan of this at all. I'm not a big fan. I think it's completely out of place. And it doesn't work. I think there's no need to have that in there. If you just made the film without that, we wouldn't be talking about it, obviously. But I don't find it works.
Well, see, I hate musical scenes, but
it's a tone shift. Even in this odd tone film, it's like it goes into this whole kind of Broadway thing, which is kind of ironic in a way, you know, because these New York films and stuff like that. And it goes into this Broadway type thing. And I get it, but at the same time, I really don't get it. I don't understand.
I just feel like, to me, that like once that happens, it really just hammers in the fact that like, oh, this is 100% like an unserious movie that is completely ridiculous.
This
While
one is
the
like
second film, it seemed like, you know, connecting with the first film so, you know, directly, it felt like it was, you know, it still had parts of that with it. And it was ridiculous and over the top, when this one is just like from the get-go. But yeah, I don't know. You're right. I mean, honestly, like if I was editing it, I would like take that out for sure.
Yeah, I've never understood what the deal was with that. It's always bugged me, man. I remember watching this film, you know, way back in the, like when it first came out, and being like young and going, what the fuck is with the musical scene? It's like the only, like, rewatching this film, I hadn't watched it in, well, a few years anyways, and it was like the one thing I remembered about Basket Case 3 was the musical scene in the bus. So it sticks in your mind, but not for a good reason, because I really don't like it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of those things. It's like, fuck, man, you got to relive that shit again. Ugh. But I think it's interesting because the song that they sing, they actually went out and got the rights to it, and he sold them the rights to the song for like $1. The guy that, you know, it's kind of cool, kind of a cool story. But
so one of the things I actually do really like about this one is the birthing scene. I was eating a hoagie while watching it, and I was like, oh.
Now, interesting story about the birth scene, actually. They go into it. Now, the guy that's holding the camera filming the birth scene, he's this like comedic actor or whatever. And I guess what happened when they were filming this scene is he was supposed to deliver a line. His very first line, I don't remember what it was, but he fucked it up. And instead of Frank Hennenlotter cutting, he just kept it rolling. And there's actually, I think they cut out the scene where he looks over at Hennenlotter and he doesn't say cut. So he literally started to panic in that scene, and they filmed that whole scene. That whole scene is completely improv. You know, when he's counting all the babies, he's going 1 and he's doing all the shit. Every single scene or line that in, you know, of film, of, you know, real film there is all improv. Because Frank Hennenlotter never cut, and he made the guy just act out, and he was fucking freaking out. He's naturally just nervous as shit in that scene. I think it's just really brilliant. It, you know, not knowing that before, I would have been like, oh, okay, you know, like I was just totally overacting or whatever. But knowing that story, you know, I was like, that's really fucking cool, man. That's really cool. Probably one of the best scenes in the film, to be honest. I love how she gives birth to 12 little Belials.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous, yeah. But see, like that's where I kind of like this one a little bit more than the second one. Is like, by this point, like, I'm okay with the fact that the third one is ridiculous, because hell, the second one was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So it's slightly different than the second one being ridiculous when the first one wasn't. Mm-hmm. And the like, I was with the Belial babies. Like, I was like, these things are fucking dope. It's like 101 Dalmatians and shit.
Another interesting thing. Did you notice the product placement in the film at all?
What was it?
Jolt Cola.
I didn't notice that.
So the story is with the Jolt Cola is that
real? Jolt
Cola is real. It just
is that the Canadian soda or what?
No, that's an American thing. But the thing was, with Jolt Cola back in the day, they have it on the shelves again, but it has way less caffeine. But back in the day, it used to be like stacked with caffeine, kind of the shit that you drink now. But anyways, Hennenlotter and his crew was like living off this Jolt Cola because they were like working around the clock and stuff. Anyways, one thing led to another, and they ended up getting sponsored by Jolt Cola, and all they had to do was take pictures with, you know, the freaks and then put some product placement in their film. They got like all the Jolt they wanted, and they made Basket Case 3 off Jolt Cola essentially. And it's funny because
awesome.
they're interviewing one of the effects artists, and he goes, it's so funny because Frank, they cut for one clip and he goes, man, all I remember from that film is drinking Jolt Cola. We drank a lot. And then they cuts to the makeup artist and he goes, man, one memory I have of Basket Case 3 was all the fucking Jolt Cola cans everywhere. It's funny the way he said it, the way they edited that.
That's funny. I mean, like, that would be my dream, like, to get sponsored by like Monster to make like while making a movie, because like, you know, I'd be drinking like tons of that shit. Today I've drank 4 Monsters. How messed up is that?
Dude, your heart? Jesus, man. That's so much caffeine, man.
Well, to stay up and do podcasts till 4 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, you know?
I guess it totally makes sense, right?
So, Basket Case 3, man. I mean, is there really like a ton to say about this one? It's more of the same.
Not really a whole lot, man. This is the film where you find out that Granny Ruth has a freak son. And he's just like this.
Wasn't her granddaughter a freak too?
Yeah, like she's got freaks everywhere, and this is why you kind of learn more about it. Kind of develops her character and why she's a sympathetic character towards all these freaks and why she wants to save them, because it's close to home to her. It's basically her blood, right?
You know, when Basket Case 3 started, the progeny, as they call it, I was so fucking taken back by the fact that all these characters, like all these freaks, the like Moonface and the Frog Guy, like were also in this one. I was like, holy shit! Like, I did not expect that to happen.
Yeah, what they did is they took the best ones from, well, what they thought were the best freaks from part 2, and then they kind of updated their look for part 3 and then added in a couple more. You notice that there's a few more like really fucking freaky ones in part 3. You know, that's kind of
was that giraffe neck one?
No, that was not in part 2.
Yeah, that one was cool.
Yeah, so there was a couple.
I mean, they're cool to look at for sure. Yeah. But yeah, how about the chick in the chick who just like grabs like a whip and gets all like,
oh, the sheriff's daughter?
Yeah,
the sheriff's daughter, who seems like all innocent and stuff. And here's Dwayne, because he's on the run still from part 2, so he's been captured in the film and he's behind bars, and she's like kind of not caring for him, she's at the jail just watching him, and all of a sudden she like breaks into this like dominatrix character. I'm like, what the fuck? And that's totally the writing of the Fangoria guy, man. Like, where does that come from, man? Like,
but it's funny because like these films are filled with moments like this, but when she grabs the whip, she opens this little lock box and it's hanging there, and then she pulls the levers that it's hanging on and it opens the jail cells. So the very idea that whip would be in there makes absolutely zero sense.
I know.
Since the sheriff and the other people would notice the whip in there when they put him in.
Yeah, so leading into the third act of this film, and it's it's pretty tame, with the exception of Belial's girlfriend essentially getting killed in the film, since we're spoiling things, and that's kind of the thing. Like, these cops, they go to this house and they end up stealing all the baby Belials and stuff, and so this fucking third act takes place in this jail cell, or in the jail, and it just goes batshit crazy, man. Like, I love the third act of this film. It's great because there's just so many ridiculous moments and unexpected moments too. I mean, did you expect her to get shot the way she did, and things like that, like the way it went down, and like killing one of the mini Belials?
No, like, actually when she got shot, I was like, wow, that was pretty good.
Yeah, and then
but
then they make the whole scene comical because she slides down the wall and squishes one of the babies.
Oh yeah. I was kind of getting like a Jack Frost 2 vibe with baby Belials.
But yeah, it's just funny because she gets shot, she kills one of the kids, and then in about a 4 or 5 second span, it pans over and Belial snaps this cop's head backwards, and fucking all these people are just, it's like mad carnage all of a sudden. It's like, it just turns into this insane film. I love that.
One of the things that I always think about, Moodz, is when it's just me and you doing these podcasts, like obviously Jeremy doesn't do this show anymore, but I always kind of wonder, like, what the fuck would he have thought of these? Like, because on one hand, he does like stupid ass humor too.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, like, he really doesn't like bad movies.
Yeah, I could see him hating. I don't know. 2 and 3 definitely not. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he might not even like part 1. I don't know. Jeremy's weird sometimes because some of the films he does like, I'm very surprised. You know, and some of the ones he doesn't, I never know what to expect. He's kind of a mystery box.
So, just a brief moment to step away from the film a little bit. So I watched this version, this film on a UK edition from Synergy. It's the collector's edition, and I got this in a trade. Okay, so it literally on the case it says Basket Case 3, The Progeny Collector's Edition, and then it has includes special features like in a circle, like a red circle with white lettering. It says it includes special features, like it's a sticker on there. You flip it over. Oh, here's the special features. So let's see. We got scene selection. We got trailer. We got Synergy Showcase featuring trailers of Maniac Cop, Exterminator, Frankenhooker, Red Scorpion, Basket Case, and Basket Case 2. And that's it. That's all that's on the disc. I looked everywhere. That's some goddamn false advertisement, dude.
That's ridiculous.
It says collector's edition. Like, Scream Factory has collector's edition at the top. It's like that. And it says includes special features on the case.
Wow. I think Synergy's like, they were like a super low budget company that obviously were liars.
Liars as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. The end of the film, I what do you think about the very end?
Refresh my memory.
Well, I don't want to give away the end. I mean, we'll just keep that to the people.
Okay. Because
because there's nothing after that.
I'm kind of forgetting. But
anyways, it's okay. I actually kind of like the way it kind of wraps itself up a little bit, but I still think the third act in this film is ridiculous, and then it gets even more ridiculous with. Okay, I will say this with Belial in that like robotic.
Oh yeah. I totally forgot. That reminded me of Krang from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Isn't it? I didn't remember how funny it was when the sheriff actually he topples over the robot, and you see Belial in there, and he's going and just the way he's doing, I fucking bursted out laughing, man. I was like just dying, man. It's so funny, man.
I honestly did laugh more at this one than part 2.
Yeah, come to think of it, it is actually quite funny. I mean, the third act I think is better than the entire second film, really. In this one, it's ridiculous, but it's fun though. But yeah, Dwayne's performance, like I know we mentioned the second one, is completely over the top in this one. At times you're like, is it, you understand why he's trying to act, or his character's trying to be like that, but it's like so ridiculous. Like the scene where he's hanging out the bus in the straitjacket. He's talking to the girl, and it's just like,
yeah,
why? Like that scene makes no sense to me, because any normal person wouldn't sit there and have a normal conversation with someone that's hanging out a bus, talking about his brother that's in a basket a trailer behind there in a straitjacket. Like nobody would just have that normal conversation.
No,
she's like, "Oh, Dwayne, you're strange." Like she's like, it's like so ridiculous.
And not only that, but the later when he meets her again, and he's like, "Oh, I can't tell you, you'd hate me," and she's like, "Oh no, but what I really love, what would make me love you." It's like nobody talks like this. This is ridiculous.
I know. One thing I noticed in the film I'd never noticed before is when Granny Ruth gets in the bus and she takes off, they showed the bus going down, the parking lot, and then it turns right. Well, what happens is when they turn right, that I noticed is the basket on top of the trailer actually falls off.
Does it really?
Right,
it's not like attached. I noticed that.
Yeah, it's totally not. And it actually falls off, but it was like a total accident because it's never noted in the film or anything, because when they show up at the destination, it's attached to the top, and they just kind of go on with the film, but you can see it falls off right when it edits.
I didn't notice that.
I did. I was like, I started laughing. I was like, that's hilarious, man. Yeah. So
So,
But
yep.
anyways,
Yep.
I don't really have much else to say
Yeah.
about part 3. I think it's a pretty like, almost retarded film, but
Oh, it's definitely retarded. I like the baby Bilals though. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, I like them talking about it. You know how they did all the effects. They said they had so much fun doing all the baby Belials because what they did is I don't know if you noticed, but they kind of made different faces
Yeah,
on them.
yeah. That's why I like them.
It's so funny. Yeah. But I don't know, ratings. Do you want to get into it?
Yeah, I'll go first on this one. So this one I did enjoy a little bit more. You know, man, like I think mostly what happened with these films is I was just so not expecting, because I didn't really know anything about them either. Like I was not expecting them to be like this, and I was very angry that they were like this because I really, really, really like the first Basket Case a lot. Like it's probably in my top 50 favorite horror films.
Yeah.
And these are just huge step downs, and I was just like, just kind of just like, man. But anyway, this one I like a little bit more than the second one. I find it a little bit more funny, just as stupid, just as problematic. But I also give this one a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm coming in the same boat, man. This one, I find the third act is really fun, but the rest of the film is pretty blah. Again, storyline very, very lacking. There's some funny moments, but there's like a lot of ridiculous and stupid moments where you kind of shake your head, scratch it, and go, "What the fuck?" You know, it's just one of those things. And one of those scenes is I always think of Granny Ruth. I cannot fucking say Granny Ruth. I don't know what it is.
Granny Ruth, why is that hard?
I don't know. Granny Ruth. Like, why is that so hard? But anyways, when she goes into the fast food restaurant, apparently where we missed what's her face, and she starts ordering all the food. It's like so ridiculous because it goes on for, I swear to God, like at least 2 minutes. And she's like, yeah, I'll get 30 cheeseburgers, 14, and she's like all these different random numbers. And I'm just like, how long is this going to go on for? Like, I understand the joke after like 3 seconds, not 2 minutes. You know, it's just like that. It goes a little over the top, you know, and it is due to the fact that, you know, he collaborated with someone with a totally different sense of humor. There is funny moments in this one. I'm going to go with the same thing, 5.5 out of 10.
All right, so not much change on either of our parts for that. So like, I mean, I guess like even though we kind of disagreed a lot, like we pretty much agreed on all 3 movies. Isn't that weird how that worked out?
Yeah, it's funny, like certain things that I liked and, you know, didn't like. And I don't know, man. I think, honestly, this movie loses so much merit with me because of the stupid musical scene. I think it's retarded. I think it's completely unneeded. And it really, you know, generally I wouldn't just let one random thing, but it is like the whole fucking song. It's like a 5-minute scene, man. You know, it's not just like 30 seconds. Let's just do this quick little snippet. We'll throw this in here.
Never in history of like me making movies would I ever once consider putting a musical scene in any of my movies that I would ever make.
Me either. Not unless I was actually making fun of another movie's musical scene.
Yeah, like if I was doing a spoof movie.
Exactly.
And even then I would be reluctant.
Yeah, I know. It's because you got to go out there and you got to get the rights to the song, and you know what it's like to get rights. It sucks.
So, Moodz, I got to tell you, man, wrapping up on the Basket Case films here, I'm a little nervous to go into Frank Hennenlotter Part 2, Director Spotlight, because, like, I don't want to not like these movies.
Oh, fuck. Well, just put it this way, man. Besides the original Basket Case, Brain Damage is my favorite film. So...
Okay, that's one.
And it's really good. Frankenhooker's awesome. Bad Biology, now that's going to be an interesting conversation because that movie is batshit fucked up. The whole premise of the film is so ridiculous. It's so insane.
Okay, so I'm hoping that I am a little more enjoying of these next 3. But
I honestly don't know a lot of people that don't like Brain Damage and Frankenhooker, though, so it'd be interesting.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So, with that said, I mean, do you have anything else?
I don't. I just want to thank everybody for all their voicemails this week. Oh, wait a minute. There was only one. Not cool, guys. Come on, man.
You can't pluralize voice. It's a voicemail.
Yeah, come on, guys. You know, leave those
Thanks,
voicemails.
everybody,
questions.
for all your voicemail this week.
All your voicemail. Yeah, you guys know where the number is. Give us a call, drop us a line, question, voicemail, whatever it is. We appreciate it, man. We really, really do. So JP, take us out of here.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening to Frank Hennenlotter's Director Spotlight Part 1, the Basket Case Trilogy. I hope you guys all come back next week to hear us argue more about movies, maybe a little less arguing, maybe a little more arguing. You never know. So come back. Also, you can drop us a voicemail, just one. We'll take one this week. At 724-426-6665. Again, that is 724, represent Pittsburgh, 426-6665. As always, you can head on over to the Facebook group page, in which you will be very glad that you did so, because that's where horror be at. Also, Twitter, 22 Shots Podcast. Haven't been tweeting lately, but I like our Twitter. It's fun to use, so follow us. iTunes reviews, very much appreciated. Anybody who leaves an iTunes review will be entered in all future contests. I'm sure we will have a mega one on episode 100. That's for damn sure. Also, guys, please answer the question that we asked earlier. You can also check us out on YouTube. I am Double Shot J. That is Moodz 616. We'll see you guys next time.